I know what you're saying, but it's not technically wrong.
Well, yeah, that's what's so like, yeah. That's why I said like it's a non-sentence. It's a non-statement. It's not a bad statement. It's just like it's something that you can say to like fill the time, and sort of communicate something. But at the same time, if you dissect
I
what's
think
actually
the
been
problem
said,
is it's too
nothing's
nebulous.
actually been
You're
said.
not going into detail on what's actually happening, because you can have a passive protagonist that does things, but it's what they're doing specifically towards the plot and how they're progressing it and how everything's happening. And the statement needs a lot more work to define what they're actually saying.
Yeah,
I think we can agree because a protagonist is doing something doesn't make them good. Like just because they're acting, they have to be acting towards their plot. And if they're not doing that, they're just meandering, they're bouncing around, they're scared, they're running away. It's like action is still forward, but it's going in the opposite direction. It's like, it's what do you want and why aren't you doing it? That's the question I always have for a protagonist that's floundering or sitting still. Anyway, let's get going.
Yeah.
Let's see. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 5:10. We're starting a little later than usual. It's Smudcast number 117, and someone wanted me to do some sort of, was it a Halo video, or there's something about 117, which is special to the Halo series. I don't remember.
Well, because it's Master Chief's number.
117. Oh, really? Okay. That makes more sense. I had no idea. But, yeah, we'll get it another time. Don't worry about it. We'll do some special.
The next 117 that comes along.
The next Halo video, which we get very, very. I don't think we ever got one or two, at most.
I never think we've done a Halo video.
No, I don't think so. Anyway, we're back to good old classic Star Wars, and that's with why Rey is a great protagonist and why not. It's a video essay by the YouTuber of Dare to Entertain. This is a small video YouTuber, and of course we cover whoever we like. Doesn't matter if they're big or small. This person has 1.73K subs. And this video was published in February of this year and has about 1.2K views. So it's not too big, it's not too popular, and that's fine. We're here for the argument. We're here to see and hear what is the big deal about Rey. And we know all about Rey. We've done this for years. We've researched it. We've analyzed it. We've probably written said our share of essays. If we were to write those down, we'd probably have about 300 pages worth of what makes Rey not work. So we're always happy to look at when she can.
Suffice to say, we have a lot to say on the topic, and we have said a lot.
And we have, yes. So with me is Very Joker Dunn and Shiny. Thanks for joining, as always. And hope you're all on the watch together. And I think we're good. Everything looks okay on my side. So
it's fucking cold right now.
It is a bit chilly, yeah. Even in Canada.
My radio is a piece of shit.
It's going to get even colder, Shiny, wherever you are. All the year through. All right. Let's get going. One of the franchise best. So there's three major series in Star Wars. There's Luke, there's Anakin, and there's Rey. So there's not exactly this mountain.
Well, talking specifically about like the very main protagonist, there are other protagonists.
I guess, but that would be related to secondary characters if you're talking about the supporting cast. So you could say Han is like a protagonist.
Han and Leia.
Not exactly. He's sort of a supporting cast. But
well, they have a lot of focus on Han and Leia.
This is true. They split up the plot between those two for sure. And it works.
It also depends on how he's defining the franchise. If he's talking about just the films, if he's talking about the
expanded
cartoons
materials
as well.
Yeah.
If
he's only talking about canon, or if he's
comics.
also including legends, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good point.
Hey, Hey, buddy, how's the new video going?
Yeah, it's going quite good, Adam. It's actually going brilliantly, in fact.
Still going on it?
That's good.
Yeah, I said it would take quite a while to write. You know, it's Star Wars. These videos aren't easy to write.
I mean, your last one was pretty popular. You just do another Star Wars video.
Not that simple, Adam. You know, that one was very negative. I don't want to be that guy that's always negative on YouTube. You know, New Year, positivity and stuff.
Look, either way, you know, I've got other people on...
That's a lot of camera equipment he's got behind him there. Some tripods, some carrying cases.
Well, maybe he does something with film.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, he's obviously very good at filming and shooting. Look at the lighting and the camera work. So this is obviously a lot of effort put into this.
Yeah.
On standby that can do this.
The color grading gives you a little bit
I
of work,
like
though.
you. I like your work.
Also, just a
Oh, yeah,
random
that's
lens
fair.
flare he's
Come on,
thrown in there. Yeah.
Speed it up.
I'll try my best, man. Just give me till Friday, please.
You're on thin ice. I got you.
I know a lens flare can make your scene look better, but just don't throw them in everywhere.
The conversation around Rey as a protagonist in Star Wars since Force Awakens came out a few years ago has always been a hot topic to talk about. Most people sharing any positive notions about her normally garner a lot of hate online, and this video is basically taking a lot of different forms and started in a lot of different ways. But I do want to start off with a very hot take that I do have, and it's that Rey in The Last Jedi is the franchise's most compelling and most interesting lead. But wait, please, before you guys start jumping down the comments and already disliking the video, it's been a month since Rise of Skywalker has come out, so I think there's a lot more nuance to this opinion than you guys might think. Because I do think...
Okay, I want to make bets. Okay, I'm going to feel like he's going to say that Rey is a great protagonist in the first film, and she's a terrible protagonist in the next films. And of course, he'd be wrong, but, you know, I think that's where he's going.
Well, he's either saying she's great in The Last Jedi and worse than all the rest, or great in the first two and worse than... Like, you can't say she's going to be great in Episode 9. I don't know
coming in.
how you get there from TLJ.
No, I think he's definitely going to say Force Awakens. I don't know about The Last Jedi.
I think that I think he actually already did say that he thinks that Rey in The Last Jedi is the franchise's best protagonist.
No, it's gonna be reverse. He's gonna say The Last Jedi is the one that's good, and he's gonna say that
Rise of Skywalker is bad.
The Rise of Skywalker was the one that was
Bad and
a problem. Yeah.
All right.
That's my bet. I don't know if it's right. So I'll take that.
I think the problem is just that Rise of Skywalker is just obviously bad, more so than TLJ. Like, TLJ has a thin veneer of pseudo-intellectualism. The Rise of Skywalker is just a Transformers film.
I wouldn't even say it's a Transformers film. I think it's its own animal at this point.
I don't know.
I just liken it to the other dumb thing.
It's like a hard course correction. Like, they've seen the franchise driving off the cliff, so they've done a hard turn and they just drove it off the other side of the cliff.
When you see the 2D Clone Wars, that's a lot of fun, crazy action, over-the-top excitement. Transformers movie, same idea, very fast, very quick classical animation. When you bring it to 3D or you bring it to film, everything slows down. You have to get the right lighting, the right size, the right camera. Everything has to scope in all the elements properly.
Message coming in.
And it's harder to do. It takes effort. It takes a lot more people and computer power to put those things together. So I would like to see, just to contrast, a 2D animated version, whether it's a comic book brought to life or a brand new thing of Rey being Rey. And I want to see, hey, if you can do this with Clone Wars, like an in-between story, I don't know if there's like a time jump between episode 8 and 9 that could work, and fill that in. Just to compare, just to see how they do it. I would like to see that. That's just me. I know the character's horrible.
Resistance was a thing.
Really?
Yeah, that's a show.
What is it?
I don't think you want to see it, but at the same time, they did do a show in between. It takes place just before The Force Awakens. It continues into The Last Jedi and after The Last Jedi for a little bit.
All right, but does it involve Rey?
No.
Oh.
So, what's the point?
Interesting.
Smud asked for a show that was in between, so I was like,
Specifically
there
looking
it
at
is.
Ray, though, like I want something animated, and I want something simple that we could all digest and go, okay, here's a simple story. Ray is doing X, just to see if they could, just if there's a writer out there on Toonami. I don't know who does the rights to this thing. Just get a studio. Just hey, can you
I
write
think
it?
Toonami's,
Yeah, get
I think
a.
Toonami's dead at this point.
I have no
I think
idea.
Toonami's dead for a while.
I'm
I
not
think
aware.
I think it's just Disney.
Just Disney?
Disney's the only one doing it right
All
now.
right. I just want to compare. That's all I want, just to see if there's a writer with their salt, and they go, okay, we're gonna get a basic story.
What we need is a discovery writer instead of an auteur. I think that's one, and less what is it? The production interference. The executives interfered with, well, at least that's the claim of Rise of Skywalker, and part of the reason why it was so such a muddled mess.
I think
But if
actually
we-
less. I think
If we had a discovery writer doing a in-between story that focuses on Rey, that would be where you would that would be something I would read or watch without fear. Even if it was bad, I would still be invested in seeing what they did with it.
how do you define discovery writer? Out of curiosity.
Well, so I've seen there's a lot of it in Japan, where they just they write characters as naturally as they can, going about things with kind of a loose plan, but they don't have the events. They let the events flow from one thing to the next as naturally as they can, with a kind of an end goal in sight, but not planned out.
Alrighty, that's generally that's my definite. I would say that's my definition as well. I was just curious.
I would
think
say
that-
that Rise of Skywalker would probably be terrible even if the people up top weren't interfering, because I think one of the biggest problems with like The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi was that there was no oversight at all.
I think
They-
an architect style writer would have been the best option for the sequel trilogy. Personally,
Well, I think the first thing you need is
babysitter
some
for
kind
Ryan.
of first get rid of the don't know Ryan Johnson, J.J. Abrams, but you need someone with a plan. You need to have some kind of idea of what you're actually going to be doing with this trilogy, and then you need someone who's going to keep your directors in line, and you need to do it so it makes them not do horrible decisions while also allowing them a lot of creative freedom, because when it came to the first two films, they allowed them so much creative freedom, so they allowed them to just break and fuck up everything. And then when it came to the Rise of Skywalker, they went in the complete other direction, where they were just didn't allow them to do anything with that film and just ruined any kind of creative freedom.
There's also the problem that Chris Terrio is a bona fide moron.
I think there's a
I mean,
lack
they're
of
all
intelligence
bona fide
throughout the process, not just the writing. But it starts from the writing, we agree. But the directing, the production, to allow the writers to do what they want, to allow the artists to go ahead, all those steps. It's like whoa, just stop, hold on. Are you sure this is good stuff before we go? That's what I want. I want to have like the guy who's like the Star Wars geek. He just sits there, is like, are you really doing this with Star Wars? Really? You're gonna have this sort of scenario happen? That's gonna be good.
Well, in theory, that's what the Star Wars Story Group should be doing, but that's not what they did. They were just yes men.
Yeah.
I want the hardcore lore guru story group kind of people to just say no to everything.
That's what the Star Wars Story Group was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's what they were supposed to be. But then they're like, oh no, we just gotta, I think that the Holdo maneuver is completely 100% in canon. There is no contradictions here at all.
We should probably just keep watching the video, see what Maury has
Yeah.
to say. I think we've covered taking the bets.
All right. 3 super chats. Let's keep going after that. Nothing. Thank you, Nothing. Smudcast Halo video, number 343, Guilty Spark. Name of one of the missions. Separate issue, Shiny's cold. The armor doesn't have cold resistance. I don't know what you're trying to say, sir, but that's a whole bunch of ideas after commas.
The clone armor apparently doesn't have cold resistance.
I got that.
Unfortunately, I'm not in my clone armor right now.
Just a whole bunch of ideas strewn together in a sentence. Like, whoa. Or several sentences. Joe Crazy, I have arrived at my brothers in arms. The hell did I stumble into? We're not sure yet. We're going to find out. He's going to explain his positions here.
Not too bad. It looks like kind of a whole bit of nothing to me. That's what I'm looking at.
Maybe. Could be.
These first 2 minutes.
Yeah. Ever Jance. So stunning, so brave. Bravo, Smudcast. Bravo. Yeah, we are so brave. Yeah. Look out. Here we go.
No, we are stunning and brave.
Oh, Shiny, you're stunning. Okay. That armor just
thank
glistens in the freezing cold.
Is she a good character or a bad one, a Mary Sue or not? I know there have been video essays that can last an eternity on Star Wars, and especially The Last Jedi, and with Last
like how he
Jedi, there are
talks
great and bad
with his
videos
hands.
for both sides and both lines of argument. To get an idea which camp I sit in, I very much reside in the camp that do love this film. But as the title of the video suggests, this isn't going to be just a video of me pumping up Disney branded tires. It's going to be more of a deep dive into why I think Rey as a character is interesting, but also the reasons why I think she has some downfalls. And for mostly
Is he having audio issues for anyone else?
Like, is it contradicts a lot of the values of the
It's soft.
of Rey.
Yeah.
No, I just like there's just a head like crackling error almost.
Expecting someone with your reputation to be a little
I wasn't
older.
getting that.
So starting with the chosen one, Anakin Skywalker. It is without question that with the so happily titled The Skywalker Saga.
I'm not sure why we're comparing it to Anakin, though.
No.
What are we doing here?
It's not the Skywalker saga. It's the Palpatine saga.
It's not any kind of saga
It
because
starts
the
and
last
ends
3
with
films
Palpatine.
don't have anything to do with the original films.
Yeah.
The prequels, you can at least say they're connected because they're a prequel to what's actually, happening in these films. It's setting up what's eventually going to happen. But with this, it's completely separate from anything that happened in the original trilogy. You're not even, I couldn't even call it a sequel properly, as in, like, it's because it's not even following any of the same protagonists. It's not a continuation of any kind of story or plot line. Even the faction's just gone and dead. So could we even really call it a true sequel other than it's just called the sequel trilogy?
Yeah. With I think, like what you were pointing out with about the original trilogy is that Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker kind of obliterate almost any reason to watch them. They're filler at this point now. If you take the whole saga into account.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you had just told somebody, Palpatine went into hiding at the end of episode 3, and then these old characters, they've got weird backstories, but don't really worry about them too much, then you don't even need to watch the original trilogy. They add nothing to the overall story when you can connect the prequels to the sequels.
That does remind.
Apparently, it's not just me. Other people can hear the crackling in his microphone.
Oh, okay. I seem to recall a news story a few days ago about Kelly Marie Tran, Billy D. Williams, and Anthony Daniels coming back for some sort of animated series of the Clone Wars. They're doing something.
I believe it was the Lego holiday special. I don't think it's Clone Wars because it
also the Forces of Destiny, I think.
Oh, okay, because I heard about it, like what could they possibly do? I thought everyone was done with the sequel trilogy, but apparently they're
Dunn's much better than them.
Oh yeah. I was just curious because I was like, what are these people doing? How are they getting jobs still? Or do people care? Do they want to see Billy D. Williams again? I don't know if that's a good thing. Or Anthony Daniels.
At the moment, the only animated series that are in the pipeline, to my knowledge, is a sequel series to Rebels and a sequel series to Clone Wars, which is in the form of a story about Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine from Rebels, and then following the Bad Batch from the Clone Wars.
Ezra? Really? I thought he died.
He should have died with Thrawn, but apparently, hyperspacing with windows cracked open by tentacle monster creature hyperspace creatures, that's fine. They can survive that.
Yeah, he died off screen, so they can bring him back.
Well, he didn't die off screen. I think it was always their intention to bring him back. But I just find it strange that, the windows were blasted completely open, but yet he's survived somehow.
I think the fact they brought back Ahsoka in that strange way was bad enough. So to bring back another character is just like, okay, this is pushing it. This is too much, guys.
And they bring back, they brought back Maul. He died. He died.
Oh God, yeah.
But they brought him back, and it's from what I've heard about the Ezra, how he goes out. He died too. There's no way he survived that, but apparently he did. It's the same kind of thing.
All right, let's keep going.
No, I don't, because Maul is a bit more, he got cut in half. Ezra, it's hyperspace. So, one of them you see kind of die, mortally on screen. The other one is in a situation which he shouldn't be able to survive, but we didn't see it. So...
Anyway, Jake the Surgeon, why do you make me give you money? I have a gun to your head, sir. It's the invisible sword of Damocles just hovering like an ion cannon in the sky. That's how it goes. All right, let's keep going.
It's obviously talking about him. So he's the chosen one. It's about his rise, fall, and his redemption. And in turn, on paper, Anakin's story is by far the most compelling out of the three main leads.
If he's bringing in Clone Wars, he can fuck off with us. Rey being the better protagonist.
I don't. He says on paper that Anakin's more compelling. It's like, if I were to see the script, I'd be like, well, not really. It's kind of goofy.
Is that the script over there?
Yeah, it's like, he fights the dark side of the Force in a person, and then he fights with the light side of the Force. You're like, okay, sure.
Yeah, it's a weird series. I kind of wish I had been there for that or recorded it.
When we watched it, it was just like...
the Morris arc is weird.
Yeah, it was just like, okay.
But you're talking about the Mortis arc?
I guess.
I wish I could...
I thought you were talking about the prequels, because I thought this is what the topic would be on, the prequels.
I think he's looking at the character as a whole, not just the movies.
Mm.
The execution of his story was done as well as a guillotine made out of feathers, with wooden dialogue and key moments such as when Anakin shares how he killed the Tusken Raiders. Episode 1 and 2, they've been shot on for over 2 decades, so I do want to skip those ones, but you can all know why I have my issues with Anakin.
And not just the men, but the women.
Yeah.
He's so attractive in this scene. Everyone, all the girls are like, oh. Wow.
Message coming in.
Padme's just like, oh yeah, he just didn't just kill the men, but the women and the children too. That's what I really look for in a man.
This is not good though. He's saying that Anakin's arc is damaged by the acting. It's like that's pretty subjective, and I understand what he's trying to what someone could say about that.
Well, I wouldn't say acting is subjective.
Well, it's
because you can look at a plank and you can look at an actual actor. One of them is objectively probably better than the other, but I would say there is difference between like the actual writing itself and how the actor is portraying that writing.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was trying to get at. Thank you. And I think that he's not drawing that distinction here. He's the problems he has with this actor is he's conflating his problems with the actor and the character.
I think a lot of people initially did not like the knee-jerk reaction from Hayden was like, oh, this is bad, not realizing the script itself is pretty lame and pretty silly. So when he's trying his best as an actor to do whatever George wants, it's like, well, I'm going to do what he wants because that's what he's directing me to do, as opposed to like trying to like make sense and make the reality of slaughtering people be believable and feeling compassion for what he's going through. And you realize like, no, you're just a cold-blooded killer, dude. You just slaughtered everyone because you could. Like there's no appropriate way. There's no plot for us to figure out, yeah, you wanted to save your mom, but then she died. So your motivation to stop or to protect her is gone. And you got so angry, you just killed everyone. That's nuts.
It would actually be better if like you could see that he wanted to do it, but he was like holding back.
If
if you could see the rage, but he was able to, at that point he was still fighting it off. And then he didn't portray it in such a weird way. Like it's like, hey, we're animals and I slaughtered them like animals, not just the men, but the women and the children too.
Yeah, like
it's a moment that could be a lot better
this should have been
and performed if they just do it in a different way.
This should have been a step up, and this should have been a foreshadow for what comes later on in the series where he kills younglings, because right now he is going from 0 to 100 because of anger. And you're like, okay, dude, you're a Jedi. What have you been doing all this time? You have fear and emotion, but you've been controlling it. So they have to have the scene where he's about to kill some kids, and he goes, what the hell am I doing? I'm just going to kill the adults, and that's what happens. And he still has the same emotion.
Even then, I don't think it's just, I'm just going to keep. I'm not going to kill these kids, but I'm just going to keep killing anyway. But more of just, I think, a scene where he realizes what he's doing and that he should stop what he's doing.
Right. Focus on his emotions for his mother. He's seeing another child. There has to be some like intelligence in his brain going, I'm killing a child. I'm killing me. I should not do this. This is not the Jedi way. Killing is bad. And he keeps repeating whatever training he's been given. And he goes through this entire process of partially killing efficiently. He's sloppily slaughtering the adults and trying to keep the children away and whatever. Like doing something, fighting with some sort of inner turmoil, as opposed to just going, Padme, I just killed them all. Oh, woe is me. What happened? Like, we don't know what happened. You just slaughtered them all. There's no conflict within you, sir.
And then he cries about, like, not just that, but then he cries about Obi-Wan as well. Like, I want more power. The Obi-Wan, he hates me. He holds me back. I hate him.
Yeah, it's so childish and dumb. And that's not what Darth Vader is. He's not a child. He's a very powerful dude, and he's aware of his power, and he knows how to use it. And we're not seeing that building block from adolescent. Was he 17 here? From adolescent to young adult to middle-aged fellow who knows how to wield a sword and why. We just sort of jump straight from, I'm a kid, now I just kill the whole village.
Here I go murdering again.
Yeah. Jake the Surgeon, then at least you could do is strip for me, you tart. I don't know. I'm pretty much in my pajamas 24/7, so I don't know. Not exactly the most attractive look. I get a lot of work done, though.
And the children, too.
But episode 3, on the other hand, that's when things get really interesting. For me, that's pivotal Star Wars. It's everything you imagine it. The clones, the droids, all of it. And it's where Anakin's peak. Sorry, what Anakin does and nuance, he does gain in the utter desire to keep to a vision. I think this is Anakin's biggest strength.
I mean, I would agree that episode 3 is the strongest. I don't think it's Anakin. It's still not fantastically done. Again, Anakin just goes from, it's not the Jedi way, and then he all of a sudden just attacks Mace Windu to defend Palpatine. Then he goes straight from that to, I'm just going to kill younglings now.
No, it's not the strongest. I mean, if you're looking at them as isolated movies and just comparing the writing independently of each other, I'll accept that 3 is the better of the group. But it's not. Or when you're comparing sequels, it needed 3 needed to be something that it definitely wasn't. It needed to be the culmination of the 3 and a handoff to the original trilogy, and it failed so spectacularly on those points.
It's kind of funny.
Well, even then, it's difficult to be a sequel to the culmination of all the 3 films because episode 1 is almost a completely different story. Because you go from episode 1, which is about a trade dispute on Naboo, then all of a sudden you go to Attack of the Clones, and okay, that's where the real Clone War starts. Yeah, okay, we're building up now, we're actually setting up things, and it's episode 3.
Yeah,
and then you've already wasted one part of a trilogy.
We look at the plot of episode 3, all the relevant, if not important scenes happen there. I think Shiny talked about this, where if you just took and started with episode 3 and episode 1, and had 3 movies of him going from, I don't know, being a Jedi Padawan, arguing about politics and getting befriended and doing all these things, and then building up like a year later or 10 years later, whatever the time skips you want, and just focusing on the politics and what makes Darth Vader, why he gets there, give it so much room to breathe, as opposed to going from, 9 years old to 19 to 20, whatever. Like it's just too far. You're going too fast, and you have to slow it down. You have to make Darth Vader mature. He is supposed to be this big deal, and he comes across as this weird, geeky kid who just doesn't know what he's doing and just starts slashing. He just starts killing people because he's angry. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. That's not Darth Vader. That's not Anakin.
Vader was always very controlled in the films. He doesn't seem like someone who would just go off on a tangent, like, I hate them. He's very controlled. Like he does whatever he's doing for purpose. He's very focused, and that's the kind of Jedi Anakin should have been.
And look at characters we actually enjoy who are dark side, like Revan. We know why he did what he did. He did it in a very interesting way. We have all this build up to his character. We see his backstory. We play through it actually, and we know what's going on in his head. We know why people revere him. We know why people fear him. It's like, oh, that's good. Now that obviously is a different format, different medium, series of games, but we had so much time to see what happened to him and how he got where he did, even from the perspective of a second character or a supporting cast character that was introduced as the protagonist in KOTOR 2. And we hear all these things that happen and why. That's good stuff. That's sort of off to the side. The mysticism is still maintained. It's kind of like you have Darth Vader first as a Padawan, whatever, and then you just sort of remove the part where they become Darth Vader, and now they're just this scary, spooky dude, and you learn insights. You learn little references, little anecdotes, little stories, little telltales from other people as you go along your journey. You're like, whoa, who's that guy just slaughtering a whole race or a whole city because the Emperor ordered him to? What is that all about? Like, that's the kind of stuff you wanted to hear about. Not, I'm going to fight you in a minery volcano and I'm going to lose my arms and legs. It's like, okay, that's neat and all, but why did you flip out on everyone? Because Mace Windu was going to kill a bad guy?
Yeah.
Really?
Or he wanted to save his wife when he's very obviously being manipulated, and to an extent he knew he was being manipulated by Palpatine because he knew he was Palpatine at that point.
It's like, I'm a snake oil salesman. I know you're a snake oil salesman. I know the snake oil doesn't work, but I'm still going to go through with it. It's like, why?
Yeah. That's so ridiculous. It's, it's like, I know how to save your loved one. And then it's like, okay, fine. I'll go with you. I'll do the thing. And it's like, great. We'll figure it out together. And that's when you stop. You're like, whoa, you don't know? What's going on here? You
I
stop.
have the power to save the one you love.
Or do I?
Oh, gosh.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you've already committed to, not great actions. But gone a little
But there's
too
still a
far. but
Jedi
at the
Order.
same
He
time,
could literally just stop him like, at any point.
Yeah, at that point, it's like, we'll figure it out together. And then you turn your lightsaber on, cut him in half, and be like, yeah, that was a bad decision. Oh, well. And then you move on and you're like, try and do your best. But you don't believe in the guy who told you, I definitely have this thing you want. And then the second that you do the thing he wants, he says, we'll find it together. It's like, no. The story made no sense. It made little sense before then, but it made no sense at that point. Vader or Anakin's characterization should have just been totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And the only great development I remember from episode 3 was the whole putting Anakin in a tough spot between lying and sneak and actually doing his task of spying to the Chancellor. Like that was the best part of the whole film, because he has the conflict. He believes in X. They're telling him Y. It's like, wait a second, the Jedi don't do that. We're always truthful and honest. It's like, nope.
Yeah, and then there's parts of that where it's kind of a little bit messy because Anakin does it himself. Where Anakin realizes at the beginning at the film where it's like, I shouldn't have killed Count Dooku. It's not the Jedi way. And then he then criticizes Mace Windu for almost wanting to do the same thing. Where it's like, you can't do it. That's not the Jedi way. It's like, but Anakin, you did that earlier in the film.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe you could say that him realizing he shouldn't have killed Dooku is the setup for him trying to stop Mace.
But he still did it.
The situations
That's
are
the
not
thing.
equal.
Well, you have both situations. Both Sith Lords are currently on the ground, defenseless from the perspective of the Jedi, and they're about to be executed. Or at least Count Dooku is executed. It's executing a defenseless prisoner at that point.
I think Dooku would have been pretty awesome with 2 cybernetic hands. That'd be kind of cool. I would have liked to have seen that.
Count Dooku was always awesome.
Message coming in.
Yeah.
Patching it through.
Yeah.
All right, Joe Crazy. I like 3, but not even I would say it's a well put together film. It's the better of the 3. It's just, it has its own series of problems.
By saying it's the strongest, it's like, oh, I'm the strongest out of my nerd friends.
Yeah. It's still pretty weak.
Not saying much.
Take her
yeah.
6'10".
I've got to tell you, though, I mean, during the other 2 movies, I was not upset. Watching number 3 in the theaters, I was furious at certain scenes about how spectacularly failing they were at storytelling. It just drove me up the wall.
What parts
so
really upset you?
The part where okay, so there's they don't have the prophecy in the OT, and yet they build up the prophecy in especially 1, and it's minimized, but I think it's still there, number 2. And then Anakin has flipped, and Yoda and Obi-Wan are flying away, and Obi-Wan asks Yoda, it's like, but what about the prophecy? And then Yoda, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but he's like, I don't know, guess we got it wrong. And it's like, you can't say that.
I don't think they said they got it wrong. I remember they were in the LAAT, and then Obi-Wan says, well, is he not the chosen one? Is he not to bring balance to the Force? And then Yoda says it can be, prophecy might be misinterpreted or something along those lines. I don't think he straight up says, well, it might be the wrong one. Like, the idea of retconning it as the chosen one, because in the end, Anakin is the one, supposedly before the sequels, he is the one that brings balance to the Force. And my whole idea with retcons usually is that it's okay if you're changing something which isn't a contradiction, and it doesn't change too much in the original, and it has to be improving what before. I think there's a lot you can actually do with a whole idea of Anakin being the chosen one. The problem is they don't, and that's where the issues start coming in. Again, as you said before, they kind of forget about it a little bit in episode 2, and it's something they don't really build upon or properly flesh out, and that's the issue with it.
I think that would have been a very key element if the Emperor was aware of the prophecy and he knew what the prophecy meant, and he says something to the effect of, I am the last of the Sith. If I die, the balance will be restored. And so he's really focused on stopping that, and he does things. He does think he does that by stopping Anakin being good. Like, that would have made so much more sense. And he doesn't care how he stops it, so long as he stops it. I'd be like, fine, great, cool.
There also needs to be more focus on Palpatine manipulating Anakin, because outside of a few scenes, you don't really see it that much. I don't remember much in Episode 2, and in Episode 1, all you get is, oh yeah, I'll be watching you with great interest. And then in Episode 3, there's a couple moments where he's obviously manipulating him, but then it just kind of looks like he's manipulating him, just in the events of Episode 3. It should be something which he's doing over a longer period of time. Again, because you said he knows that Anakin is the chosen one, and he knows that to bring balance to the Force, it would be the destruction of the Sith. All right,
here's Taker 610. Anakin didn't read the infamous Sith fine print. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I honestly don't believe the Sith are that sophisticated, really, at least in the movies.
Yeah. So, just to summarize my point, is just that Anakin is there because of the prophecy, and then at the last moment, more or less, of him being considered a good guy, they're just like, oh yeah, the reason why he's here, I guess it doesn't really matter,
I don't think that's what they say in the film.
It's the foundation of his character, that they made it that way. They didn't have to be that way. Mm-hmm. We could have just had him be just a Jedi.
No, when do they say that, though?
What was in the...
No, because I'm stuck on this line, because I know you're paraphrasing, but I don't remember anything along the lines of that in the film.
Oh, I don't have the...
Is it the LAT
the script in front of me? But yeah.
Where not what they're saying in the scene.
They're saying no. They said that Yoda was saying it can be interpreted many ways, or the point is that the point that Yoda was making is that we relied too heavily on one interpretation. We thought we understood, but I guess we didn't. He's not saying that the entire prophecy is bogus, but he is saying that our understanding of it is wrong.
No, I don't think he's saying it wrong, because after the film, sorry, I'm trying to pull up the scene at the same time. From what I remember from that scene, the scene is kind of leaving it out in the open. Is he the chosen one? Is he not? And that's something that they're leaving an open question. It's not explicitly, well, yeah, he's not really the chosen one. Sorry, guys. Guess we were wrong. Because the whole question Obi-Wan is bringing up is he not the chosen one? And that's when Mace Windu is saying, I don't trust him. And then Yoda says something along the lines of misread or misinterpreted, but I don't think it's quite on what you're talking about. I'm not defending the film. I just think if you're going to criticize a film, you better get it right.
Anyway, let's keep going.
Yeah, no, and I think my point wasn't necessarily that Anakin isn't the chosen one. My point is that the philosophy or the prophecy being clear and the interpretation of the philosophy or the prophecy is why the structural integrity of the prophecy is why what's his name? Liam Neeson brought Anakin to the Jedi. That that interpretation, that structure is why he was there. Mm-hmm. And to not kind of explore the prophecy and to give it context and to allow for different interpretations, to allow us to see how the prophecy could still mean or still match up with what we see in the OT. To not have that in the movies was a huge mistake, and I felt almost insulted as an audience member. Instead of it just saying, "Oh, it kind of fits." If you think about it, it still kind of works. You can do this yourself. Is what I felt like the film was. It was another from a certain point of view line. And that was,
I don't agree, but I think there's a video to cover because we've talked about this.
Yeah. Sorry. This isn't about me and my this is about Ray.
All right, let's keep going.
Arc in the original trilogy, but he now has the great final note and final film to understand why this young boy that goes to the Jedi and learning how to become a Jedi Knight goes to the Sith for answers.
Alrighty. Progress update. How's the video going?
Going amazing. It's going so great. So stay with me. It's going to be a 3-video plan type thing, and the first 2 videos have nothing to do with the third, but once you get through the first few hours, get to know some of the characters, it absolutely comes well in together by the end of the third video.
Right then.
Never. I'll never turn to the dark side. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
And with Luke, it's even easier to talk about. With his first film coming out in 1977, I've been able to sit and kind of cook on my feelings on the character and my thoughts on his story. Even though I do hold episode 4 and 5 to the highest of regards, with episode 5 being in my top 5 of all time, it's that as a trilogy, these movies don't really have an overall message
Did
they're
we
trying to
jump
say
time?
What?
as well as
Yeah.
the main story.
Is it nighttime now? What's what happened?
He couldn't get the whole thing in one take, I guess.
Maybe he did it in the evening, and then suddenly the sun went down wherever he's living. I don't know. It was
Message
fast.
coming in.
He
Patching it through.
He did, yeah. He fumbled or he rambled, one of the two, and he's just cutting together different takes. But yeah. Which is funny because that's kind of what he's going on about, is that the storyline is kind of hard to follow. There's not a consistent through line from beginning to end.
Here's Anesia Jones.
I would disagree.
Here's Anesia. I can't pronounce this name. The prophecy was a bad idea and shouldn't be acknowledged. Okay, it has nothing and is only really mentioned a handful of times. Call it bad and move on. Oh God, it's like, yeah, George, we don't care. It's like, yeah, we'll just let it go. I don't know.
Yeah, I disagree with it being a bad idea, as like explained before. I'm not going to go over that again. I think it's just the execution. But you were right. It's only really mentioned a handful of times, and that's one of the issues with it. They bring it up and make it a big point, but then they don't do enough with it. And that's one of the major issues.
I would have liked lots of exposition and speculation and wonder and questioning. What does this prophecy mean? Where do prophecies come from? Who made the prophecy? Who had this idea that the Force is? What does it mean to balance the Force? Like, all these little questions should be part of the plot of why they're going on this journey to figure stuff out or whatever they're trying to do. It can't just be, oh, let's have some adventures. It's like, we have to figure this out. What's the big problem? Why are the Sith so evil when everyone's at peace? Like, there has to be a conflict here. So I want to know, what's the big philosophy that George wanted the beginnings of Darth Vader to be, that was so important? Because I still don't get that understanding from watching the prequel, saying, what's the big deal with Darth Vader? Like, why did this guy do what he does? It seems stupid.
Yeah, it's a problem also, the same kind of thing, problem with Palpatine and the Jedi Order, is that we don't know what's with Palpatine. We don't know what his original plan was, what was improvised, what he considered to be a failure. It's just kind of he's kept enough in the shadows that it's like he can just cackle maniacally and say everything is going according to plan.
I hate those lines. I hate those lines.
I think this plan's so because it's never explained. It's very nonsensical. It needed these specific things to happen perfectly in order to, work. So in order that for him to not be killed by Mace Windu, he was relying entirely that Anakin would turn on the spot against Mace Windu, win, and then, be able to, be willing to become his apprentice. It relies.
Message coming in.
He puts so much on very terrible odds, or something which at least could go bad.
I love how he gets his face fried, and he just sits down, goes back to work like it's nothing. It's just like, what?
Yeah. But again, that points to my thing. It's like, what about that was his plan? How much of this did he plan out? How much of this was improvised? Did he consider that whole thing to be a failure?
It's such a stupid thing.
But then he saved the moment by turning Anakin, but actually considers that moment to be a failure because he wasn't ready for it.
If you're doing like a mastermind
or was that
character,
all according to plan, and that's exactly the way he wanted it to work out?
If you're doing a mastermind character where you nearly get killed, you try to get someone to turn to your side because you're acting like a little baby. Oh, don't kill me! It's like, what? You're gonna act like a little bitch? Like, is this part of the plan? Really? This is your grand stroke?
Oh, don't kill me, please.
Yes, my acting was ingenious.
I have the power to save the one you love.
Oh dear. Yeah, I think George could have written that, or asked someone else to written that better, just because it's so silly. Anyway,
look, everything needed to be well written in those films, and none of it is.
Message coming in.
There's a proper way to do good, and there's a proper way to do evil. Not stupid acting. I'm still alive. I'm not dead yet. You haven't killed me. Therefore, I'm a genius. Therefore, my plan is working. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Adam Woodford.
Yeah, and oh, sorry. Yeah, go.
The problem with prophecy is who really made it, the balance of the Force, but the number of Jedis versus the Sith makes me think the Sith made it. Okay, this is the problem I had originally, and this is what John did when we were talking about him, his video about the balance of the Force is a lot of dead Jedi. That's essentially what it comes down to, which doesn't make any sense. So there has to be some concrete thing that they're trying to achieve. What does balance mean? Is it a fake? Did the Sith make this prophecy to trick all the Jedi into thinking and just confuse the shit out of them? So they were like, what is this? Where are the Sith? We don't know. What's this prophecy thing? I don't know. Let's focus on what it means while this crazy dude manipulates people.
I always interpret it as like bring balance to the Force was to end the Sith. And I think that's what it was supposed to be originally, because the prophecy does say, bring balance to the Force by ending the Sith, killing them, stopping them, because they're the ones that are bringing the imbalance.
Message coming in.
But I don't think it's ever properly made clear in terms of, like, because some people, even before the annoying sequels, did misinterpret it as, bring balance to the Force, meaning equal Jedi, equal Sith. But then if you have equal Jedi and equal Sith and they're constantly clashing with each other, that's not exactly a good recipe for balance.
Probably shouting unlimited power.
And balance is also meaning peace.
When you're trying to play the defenseless little scared man who could save your wife, probably not screaming unlimited power is not the greatest time to do that. I can save your wife. Unlimited power! Kill them all! I mean, I can save your wife too. Yeah, not the greatest thing to say.
Yeah, unlimited power, but can't save can't complete the only objective Darth Vader really wanted.
Yeah, like enlightening people to death out a window. That's great.
And why does Anakin just kind of... So Padme dies, his whole, motivation for anything, and then he's like, well, may as well just follow this guy who manipulated me this entire time.
It's silly. It's just a silly scenario. Anywho, let's keep going. Taker 610, Palpatine's weaknesses, his lightning and gravity. I don't know. Yeah. I think he would have figured out that apparently force lightning bounces off lightsabers. I mean, I had no idea. I thought it just absorbed it, but okay. Didn't know that. That's kind of nice to know throughout your life. It's like, oh yeah, this thing I do, my signature move, it's doesn't work very well. It's like, oh. Joe
The
Crazy.
fact that he...
Hey, Palpatine, chewed that scene up. It was beautiful. Yeah, it was corny as hell. That's true. It doesn't make it something worthwhile.
If you like corny,
yeah,
if you like that kind of thing,
it's corny.
Then yeah, it's very enjoyable. But it's not good storytelling. The structure of the scene, the flow of the story, it's not good.
All right.
Your dog seems to agree.
Yeah.
Whether be learning about failure as like it is in The Last Jedi, but it doesn't say it needed to. It's just something that The Last Jedi does have up its sleeve. I will go in a bit more detail.
Wait, what? I'm confused now.
Episode 4 has Luke.
Wait, go back.
Yeah,
What did you just
I didn't
say?
catch that.
It's that as a trilogy, these movies don't really have an overall message they're trying to say subtly as well as telling the main story. Whether it be learning about failure as like it is in The Last Jedi.
It's not subtle! That's not subtle.
Does have up its sleeve.
Why does a film need to share it? Why does there need to be an overarching message? Why does there need to be a message at all?
Well, he's specifically saying a subtle message, and then he makes a reference to failure, the message of failure in The Last Jedi, and he's saying that The Last Jedi does that well. It's like, that's not subtle. They explicitly say it to their audience. It's not a subtle theme. You can pull any old theme and then say that's what the movie's about, because you nitpick information to support it. So you just pull any word out your ass. It's like, oh, well, I think there's a theme of rebirth in The Last Jedi because they do this and Finn comes back to life and then Leia comes back to life. Then, Luke brings the life of the rebellion back by inspiring them. And then, they reborn this thing because the rebellion is back now.
Yeah, he could have said
something.
Hope springs eternal. That would have been even better because I think even Holdo talks about hope and this is an ongoing message from the rebellion, and Yoda just repeats it as if it's like because he's the wise old sage who knows everything. It's like, yep, he could have said hope springs eternal, rebirth, pain is life, get used to it, stop dilly-dallying. There's always the opportunity to better yourself. Suffering is part of growing and learning, and all this wonderful mumbo jumbo. You could have said all kinds of things. And people would have eaten it up as, oh, that's the theme of the movie because Yoda said it. You're like, yep, that's pretty much all there is to it. Because there's nothing else there. People are struggling. No shit. It's a story. People struggle in story. People struggle in life. That's fine. It's normal, okay? It's like saying people are talking.
Humans like pattern recognition.
Yeah. And you don't do that in a story in the most blatantly obvious ways. You use a little feather and you beat your audience over the head with it. That's how you do it. So that if they don't get it the first time, they get it the 100th and 30th time, but they're not sure what the hell is that what's that thing in the back of my head? I don't know is that a bird? No, it can't be a bird. Like, yeah, make them think about it. Make them question what's going on. Not go, oh, yeah, people suck and they don't win all the time. Oh, okay, yeah. Must be failure. Oh yeah, failure is great lesson, teacher thing. Like, okay.
Well, not if you're dead.
Yeah. I'm dead. I'm Yoda. I died.
Was it there's a saying in Go, the board game, that you want to get your first 100 losses out of the way first, or as quickly as possible, because and the reason for that is that you learn a lot from failure, but there is a limit to it. It's 100. It's not 1,000. It's not, you want to fail forever, kind of thing. Eventually you want to start winning, and you can learn from failure. I mean, that's not a bad message, but it's taken to,
I would say it's overemphasized by the people who defend the film, and they try to use it as a massive defense, as if that fixes all the horrible writing.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting take by Nathan Brake. Hello, sir. The Jedi were dogmatic, so the idea of the Chosen One is skewed in the view of the Jedi. I believe they are dogmatic. I believe the prophecy is also skewed. The difference is the way that they they got Anakin to become a Jedi was stupid. So pretty much
The point of like he's too young to train.
yeah, Obi-Wan says, I'm going to do it anyway.
Message coming
And
in.
Yoda's like, well, okay, I guess you can
Patching it
join. It's
through.
like, that's not a good reason. You have rules, Yoda. You either follow the rules or you don't. You don't just break them because Obi-Wan's going to leave. That's silly. So they could have all the dogmatic beliefs they want. They don't follow them. Plus, the council doesn't even believe in that Anakin's the chosen one. They say, this is the wrong kid. This is not the guy. So it's hard to swallow how they get Anakin from street rat genius mechanic to I'm going to join the Jedi Order. It never really jives with me because it happens right at the end of episode 1, and it's stupid. There could have been so many better reasons why he or how he joins that follows a certain rule, or there's some old precedent or something like that. But nope.
Or you just don't bring up the point he's too young to train.
That too, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't make that a rule. And then you don't have to break your own rules.
Yeah. I felt like it was a bit much when Yoda said it to Luke. So that when I saw Phantom Menace for the first time, I was like, wait, this little kid is too young to train? That's ridiculous. It's like, so they have to be an infant? Oh, no. The rules of the Jedi.
They have to get a toddler.
Yeah. No, the what's good about the Jedi, what's bad about the Jedi, how did they become complacent, how did they, become corrupt or anything like that is not spelled out or explored or anything like that in these films. It's just kind of sort of implied. It's like, oh, they fell because of their flawed ways, or did they really?
I think they fell because Order 66. I don't think they were. There's nothing that is that focused in the plot that explains that how flawed they are.
The only thing I could say that scene works for is the characterization of Obi-Wan, because he's like, listen, I really loved my teacher. He's gone. I'm going to do what he wished, and I don't care about the Jedi Order. I'm still going to train this kid regardless. And then we see, what is it, the Clone Wars? He says, what is that girl's name? Satine or Sabine? I can't remember her name. Satine. He's like, I'm going to, if you told me you loved me, I would have left. I would have done whatever it took to, to make you happy or whatever. It's like, so this is the kind of character that Obi-Wan is. I think they took that from, I guess, the movie in that regard, because he's willing to say, let me do what's good for whatever. I'm going to do what I think is right. Whereas Yoda and all those dudes on the council are like, no, we have rules. We're going to follow them or else we have chaos. So I like the fact that Obi-Wan is consistent. I don't like the fact that Yoda and everyone else is a moron. And it just annoys me so much. They're supposed to be really wise and smart and insightful, and they're not.
No. And what is it? When Anakin is going to lose Padme, and they say, death is. They try and tell him that death is natural. It's not bad. You shouldn't be afraid of it. They instead of consoling him or spending time with him, they give him a platitude and then move on. It's like these guys they demonstrate that unfortunately what the conclusion that can be come to is that these guys are not good essentially parents, which is what they have to be if they're raising kids. They're not good parents. They're just good at brainwashing, and that's what's kept them from failing all this time, because someone who wasn't accepting of the brainwashing and didn't receive good parenting ended up becoming Darth Vader.
It's kind of a crazy thing though to have a kid who's like, I'm going to conquer death, or I want to save people from death. It's like, okay, you're a little nuts, but we're going to explain this to you really simply so you don't get any crazy ideas, which you shouldn't, because this is pretty obvious. So they're kind of, I see that's like, all right, what do we do with this weirdo? I don't know. Death is part of life. Enjoy the time you have. Like, what do you want me to say, kid? Like, it's just...
I think I agree, because the Jedi are terrible parents. They don't even take their kids to the park. They didn't teach them how to ride bikes. It's terrible. They didn't even play catch. Come on. Well, maybe they played catch for the Force. Who knows?
Here's a Taker 610. The too old to be trained as a Jedi thing was created by Jedi Master Epstein. Oh dear, they're too old. Train on my island. Oh.
That was spicy.
Well, video. Let's go.
Okay then, let's keep going.
I will go in a bit
Message coming in.
later on if you don't follow at the moment.
Patching it through.
Episode 4 has Luke, the farm boy, a nobody who joins the fray in the battle against tyranny that is the Empire. It is a classic hero's journey. The call to adventure, the helper that mentors, the revelation or the abyss stage, their transformation, and then their return to the known. It is one of the best uses of this formula in cinema. Luke is written to be open enough so we can set our own characteristics or feelings.
Isn't this before the formula was properly written out?
No, the
No,
book,
no.
it was out.
No.
It was out.
No.
No.
The book was out.
All right.
Many video game characters are also written like that so the audience can relate to our heroes. For episode 5,
No, that's the
what to
everyman.
say about it. Luke goes on such riveting journey.
It's the idea of it's the layout for the story, but the relating to everyone is the farm boy aspect or the background of the character. Because what he's necessarily doing in his adventure isn't something relatable, as we don't all go out and fight bad guys every day.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely is kind of the character that is at least somewhat ignorant of the world, so that we, the audience, can learn through him.
Mm-hmm.
That is definitely part of.
Well, he's a point of view character.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but your point of view character isn't always an ignorant character. You can have a character who knows what's going on, and what is it?
John Wick is an example of this.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to learn from the world. It doesn't have to be ignorant.
Yeah.
But it's a very good tool to introduce an audience member to the world. If through teaching the point of view character, you teach the audience. You teach the audience about X, Y, and Z and what's happening. What's the rebellion? What's the Empire? What's the Force? How do they do these things? Or at the Force, it's a thing. It does this, that, and the other. You could sometimes use it to lift rocks.
Right, and he is he learns with the audience, like you just said, and he is like the farmer, kind of the ordinary citizen as you are, but he's not a blank slate. This guy seems to think that Luke is a blank slate for every single person to project anything onto, and that's, I feel like, is where he's gotten off, where he's wrong. He's able to, you're able to empathize with someone with an ordinary background, but Luke is definitely not a blank slate. I don't know if anyone else agrees with that or not.
I don't think he's a blank slate. He has some very clear characteristics, like he's really whiny in the first.
He has more characteristics than Rey, I might add.
That's because you're comparing, I feel like, probably like 6 or 7 to 0.
I think something that's kind of hard to measure is like how much character a character actually has in terms of like how they act on screen and how fleshed out and believable they can be in how they're actually acting.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to actually measure, and that's something that I've always found difficult. Because it's easy to say what's wrong with Rey's character. It's difficult to say what's great about Luke's character.
Well, I think the way you would do it, and I haven't done this as an exercise, but what you're talking about is kind of made me think of it, is that character comes out, or distinction in character comes out when the characters are making choices. When they have an opportunity to do one thing, but choose to do another. Whether that's, follow the plot or run away from it, or, fight, achieve an objective in a particular way or a different way. But, like Smud, That might have been before we started. But what we were talking about earlier is that Rey is very much a passive character in a lot of the film, and she's just swept along by the plot, and so she's not making choices, so we don't get to know her.
This is fine,
I
but
think
even a reactionary character can't showcase their own characteristics. You're constantly just fighting against the ebb of a greater force. So it's like the antagonist is invading and you have to run away, or you have to change your position. You have to try another plot point because you can't get to the one you wanted to go to. So the reaction is still a form of characterization. You just have to express it. And with Rey, she's always excited and has her mouth open and is running and jumping and shooting and whatever. So it's like, okay, that's fine. She's excited and in danger. Great. But what else is there? And we see the same with Luke as well. He's also fighting. He's also shooting back. And he doesn't know how to fight very well. He doesn't know how to pilot very well compared to Han or compared to Obi-Wan. And then he loses his mentor and he's forced to do something. He's forced to go on a journey. So these things are very, very common. We've seen these over again through all kinds of stories, whether it's a fantasy story or a contemporary setting. So it's just, if you use the platform for characterization, you can do it, and you could have that tug of war between active and passive, between the antagonist and protagonist whenever they come to blows. And it should be that the antagonist is winning and causes the protagonist to double back and think, say, oh, I can't face this guy. I can't do this. I have to go on a journey and discover myself and figure out how to stop this dude. Like, this is the passive value is there. It still has to come. Mm-hmm. It can't just be constant, go. I'm always, like we saw in episode 9, it's just like push. Like, whoa, slow down. You can't do that so much. So
Smud, this might be slightly unrelated, but what are your thoughts on like the concept of a Eu Catastrophe?
The Eu Catastrophe? What is that?
Okay, so basically it's kind of like how Tolkien kind of described kind of the happy ending, where it's this incredible turn of fortune. Like, for instance, an example of a Eu Catastrophe is the One Ring going into Mount Doom. After Gollum has taken it. That's an example of one. It can be easily turned into Deus Ex Machina, but what are some ways that you could make a Eu Catastrophe work in a story?
Well, that's I mean, we're talking about specifically that the Lord of the Rings film, where not only does Frodo get out of his trance because he's being controlled by the ring by Gollum, and he loses a finger in the process, but Gollum also dies, and so does the ring. So that's sort of a fluky, lucky thing that happened, and it's contrived. It's not necessarily a bad contrivance, but if it's explained properly and we get it, because one, we know the ring controls you. Two, Frodo is losing his mind it's getting very harrowing for him as the journey goes on. So that makes sense. So we buy into the events that lead to that, and Gollum just has enough. I want the ring. I've waited so long. I'm at the point where they're going to destroy it. I want it. He's so happy to get it. So what ends up happening is you have two characters that work very well in what they have already shown us as characters. So it makes sense. I think Sam is like also on the edge of his, he's trying his darndest to save Frodo, and it's just Frodo's off doing his own thing. He's on a power trip, and Gollum's like, oh, it's time to strike, right? So that all builds up. So it doesn't matter if it's a Eu Catastrophe or whatever after Gollum dies and loses the ring. It's that the characters are doing what characters should do, and we know them so well. So the climax works. And you can call that a turn of events.
Another reason why I think that works is because Gollum's death at that point is kind of a poetic justice, where he cared more about the ring than his own life, and in doing so, lost his life.
Well,
and lost the ring.
Gollum is another antagonist. He's one of the major antagonists of the film, and we're not talking about physically or whatever. He's sort of the moral antithesis of what Frodo doesn't want to happen to him, or what Bilbo could have happened to him. So we see in Gollum the future of Frodo if he actually gives up his quest and decides to to give into his vice. So that's really what the struggle is. It's this internal problem of his willpower and trying to fight off this evil thing. So in that case, I think Tolkien was like, I know how to write a character. I know how to write their conflict. And it just so happens that that's a sort of a whimsical turn of events, as opposed to the world blowing up and saving the galaxy or something like that. It's something good. So I don't know exactly how to paint that, because I've seen all kinds of endings. Like, look at Deus Ex, Human Revolution, where you have those 4 endings, and they're all pretty much bad except the last one, which is absolutely nihilistic. So in one of those messages, it's very positive. Everyone gets along. We have moderate controls. The city, the independent corporations don't go crazy. So everything's sort of moderated. Everyone just sort of gets along. And it's just at the flick of a button. The same thing. You press a button, boom, and you get this ending, which is, we see that in other video games as well. So it's the same thing. It's, you press a button, you're not sure what's going to happen, and just everything just works out. Or everything, the opposite, everything just goes to shit. So it's the same effect with the same technique. Or, sorry, different effect with the same technique.
I was kind of thinking of how it ends in the book, where he literally just trips into the lava. There's no fight with Frodo at all.
Right. Because he has done his story. He's got to Mount Doom. He's eliminated. He's gotten the ring away from him. Gollum is screwed. He is delirious with joy. He can't think of anything else. And he got what he wanted. They both get what they wanted. It's an elegant way. Like, okay, we're talking about Tolkien, who's a fantastic writer. I mean, there's no question about him being very good at what he does. I'd have to analyze other stories to see that example, but I wouldn't call it a Deus Ex, because it's 2 people or 2 characters in that instance fighting, and that's normal. That could be anything from people fighting over an ice cream cone, or and it jumps up into the air and lands into another ice cream cone, and then it's a baby. So we can't steal from a baby. It's like, okay, well, I guess that's the conflict there. I guess we'll give it to the baby. He's happier. He's giggling and having a good time, and we're like, why are we fighting over ice cream? That's stupid. We're grown-ups. We shouldn't be doing that.
How'd this happen? We're better than this.
Exactly. So it's a way of making things cute and clever. And I appreciate that. I like when Poirot does it. He has a clever technique or a clever trick he plays on people to make them give up some piece of evidence or a clue. So it's something which is unexpected, which has a positive result. And that could be any kind of technique. It doesn't have to be a climax, though. It's more effective. It's more effective in a climax, obviously. Okay, let's keep going.
The official definition.
If you want to read it, go ahead.
The official definition is: a Eu Catastrophe is a sudden turn of events at the end of a story that.
He died.
Are you okay? They're done. Your mic's on. I don't see you though, or hear you.
Sorry, I muted myself on my other mic.
Okay.
A Eu Catastrophe is a sudden turn of events at the end of a story which ensures that the protagonist does not meet some terrible, impending, or very plausible or probable doom.
Glib.
Interesting.
Hello.
Hey, Glib. How you doing?
Happy birthday.
I am.
Happy birthday.
You. My birthday was last night. Yeah. I am now older than I've ever been.
Ooh.
Something that no one else has achieved. I'm also changing my name. My name is now Glib Skywalker. So, hello everybody, Glib Skywalker here.
Well, we're almost done. Actually, I'm not even halfway done this video. So, yeah, we like the ramble. I think we're going to do another video right after this if we have time, but I don't know if we're going to have time. So, let's keep going. Dunn, that was a great take on Tolkien's technique. I didn't know that was a thing, but thanks. I'll be happy to look at that later.
But it's something that is the best thing about the character of Luke Skywalker. And that's for episodes 4 to 6. Those 3 films are a hero's journey within itself. Episode 5 is Luke's abyss stage. He is constantly losing. Yes, he has his wins against the AT-AT and the Wampa, but they are frivolous when compared to the grand scale of things. It's very similar to what Spider-Man 2 does with Peter Parker, where yes, he wins by saving the kids from the car. He's late from delivering his pizza, which loses him his job. He beats the crooks in the car, but misses out on the play, which in turn hurts MJ, whom Peter loves. All these wins...
But did he get the pizza delivered on time?
See, the man has
If
to
he
do his
didn't,
job. See? Job is very
He
important.
might be.
Man.
It was late. It was free.
He might be
did
right.
his job. He just didn't do his job in time.
You didn't get the pizza delivered for Asif Manvi on time, so now you lose the girl, Peter, and you become Black Spider-Man because you're emo. All because of that one pizza.
Also, well.
What did you say?
No greater honor than working for General Zhao, the man who found a bunch of scrolls in the last Airbender movie.
Peter Parker's Pizza Time.
This takes place in New York, right? The whole Star.
Yeah.
If anybody is in New York, go visit Joe's Pizza if they're still open after this COVID shit. I don't know,
yeah.
but the pizza place that's in the movie, it's not the corner store anymore. That there used to be two Joe's Pizzas on the same street. It was on Carmine and Bleecker. The corner one they closed down and changed into something else because of the ownership or whatever. But the same people that own that restaurant own another one a couple doors down, and that's my favorite pizza place in New York City before 2002, before Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 came out. So that was like the best moment for me in a movie where I recognized something. I was like, hey, Peter Parker works for my favorite pizza place. If I order pizza, Spider-Man's delivering it. I win!
That's not the one near Times Square, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No, that would be next to West 4th Street, The Cage. If anybody played NBA Street or NBA Street Volume 2, The Cage from that game is in that area. That's around Washington Square Park and the Village. That's where my grandmother used to be from. So I spent a lot of time there.
The original Joe's Pizza is I think, one of the most iconic. Well, there's all kinds of iconic pizzerias in New York, but that's like one of the bigger ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's even a Pizza Wars thing where the older generation owns the East Coast stores and the newer generation, and there's like a spat between them. So there's one in Santa Monica I used to go to when I was working over there for a little bit. But that place is good, and then Johnny's Pizzeria in New York is like one of the oldest, and it's funny because it's a New York pizza place where you can't buy a slice. You have to sit down and buy a pie, which is the exact opposite of what most New York places are like. People go into the store or the restaurant, they grab the pizza, they grab it in that weird New Yorker way where they like fold it almost, and then they shovel it down their mouth while they're standing there, and then they walk out the door with a Snapple or whatever really quick onto the next thing. But at this place, you have to sit down and enjoy it, and maybe that's the reason why it's so good.
Trying to think of that other one that's it got famous the past 10 years, called Lucali's or Lucanos, something like that. There's about 4 or 5 big ones that have been there for a while. This one's rather recent, but this got popular on the Tonight Show and this and that, and he's done some YouTube videos. So it's this one guy who grew up in the area, and he bought a sweet shop and he turned it into a pizzeria. He doesn't know what to do with it. And
I think there's something in the water.
I don't know.
Does it turn the frogs gay?
I just feel like, okay, so like when I know this is such a tangent, but on the East Coast, when you are dealing with regular just water that is, the potable water that's delivered, it's lighter. There's more minerals, and I wish I could do like a sampling of it. If I'm not a scientist, I don't have university access, but I'd love to see what exactly is different from Atlantic water and from Pacific water, depending on where you get it too. Like I want to do a sample of Seattle's water and Florida, because Florida's different. But the point is that I think that these trace minerals that are in the water, potentially, or the atmosphere and environment that they make the pizza in, might make the pizza just a little bit better in New York than it is in LA, because every time I eat pizza in LA that's trying to ape the New York style, there's one piece that's missing. And the thing is that you have to have a crispy dough, like it has to be crispy on the bottom, but it still has to be foldable, which means that the dough has to have 2 simultaneous consistencies. It has to have the saucy, kind of more not crispy bit right above a layer of crispiness. And that to me is what makes a perfect flaky pizza crust. New York style. And so anyway, I know this is a huge tangent, but I love pizza,
And
I love Spider-Man, and I love New York.
We're talking about the
So-
specific Neapolitan style, New York style of Neapolitan pizza from Italy. So New York's took it, or rather Americans took it, did the thin, long slice, and that became its trademark. And everyone's been trying to copy it, at least in America. We have all kinds of like pizza taglio, which is basically the Roman style. You cut with the scissors, and it's all square. That's pretty common in households. But oh boy, we could talk about food for a while. This is what I want to do after this video. We're gonna do Tonald Loke makes the steak sandwiches. I watched that video. I was like, okay, we could talk about that. I could talk about this. This is gonna be great.
Nice.
Yeah, but let's finish off. I don't know how he jumped from Luke to Spider-Man in 6 minutes, but okay. That's
Well,
fine.
maybe because he wants to see pictures with Spider-Man.
I think so. He likes Spider-Man. Yeah, who doesn't like Spider-Man?
Have a cost. Unfortunately, the most interesting thing about Luke Skywalker is just skipped and brushed upon between movies just so they can tell it in a 3-movie trilogy. He goes from barely being able to stand his own against Darth Vader to being able to be a Jedi Knight in the next film. Episode 6 is great in its own right. Unfortunately, it drops the ball when delivering key information such as Leia is Luke's sister twice. It just means it lacks all weight. We now accept this information as canon and fact, but watching the delivery on rewatch is just painfully blunt.
My sister has it.
Oh. He's doing the thing again where he's conflating acting ability and the relevancy and the structure of the story. Those two things are different. You know, how good a delivery is and how well the story is constructed are different. And he's conflating the two.
I think he's also inferring how it's shoved into the story and not just its delivery. Because originally, from what I understand, Leia was not supposed to be Luke's sister. It was supposed to be someone else, but because what was it? Lucas didn't want to, like, he wasn't going with his original plan, and he changed some things down the line. He eventually made his sister to be Leia. So, to an extent, yeah, he is right that it wasn't.
Yeah, but he's emphasizing
it wasn't his original plan. But I think he's overemphasizing how terrible this is to the story. I don't think this, breaks Luke's character. I don't think it's a horrible scene. I think it's just something which George, he didn't have the time to do this the way he was originally intended. So instead, he decided to shift it over to, okay, so to tie up a nice little bow on everything, let's get all the loose ends out of the way and finish by this film.
Here, let's pull it back, because I'm pretty sure, that is something he probably is indicating too, but he's emphasizing the acting in the scene over the how well it fits into the story. I'm pretty sure he says that.
Let's roll it back and see what he says.
Yeah.
What's up?
And in fact, but watching the delivery on rewatch is just painfully blunt.
My sister.
Oh yeah, he is talking about the delivery, okay. But he's also talking about the thing before.
Could also be that, like, delivery story of information, I guess.
And if he's going to be bringing up delivery, as something that's incredibly relevant, he's not going to have any room to stand with Daisy Ridley.
Both occasions with Obi-Wan and Leia herself end in I knows. It's just not really nice to watch or even entertaining at all to watch characters not be impressed with learning new information. Obviously, there are great parts to Return of the Jedi. The throne room scene is just phenomenal. It's still a classic.
But what's wrong with a character just saying, yeah, I know something? Because that's how you respond in a sentence. If someone tells you something which you already know, you just tell them, yeah, I know, of course.
Well, this is something that's subjective, and it's also pointing. It's also something we can definitely see why he likes Rey.
I disagree. Acting is
no.
Like coming off.
No, what he's saying is that a character. He's saying a character saying that not be impressed by novel information isn't enjoyable to watch. That's what he said.
Okay.
A character not being impressed by novel information is
Subjective,
exactly. And that is something that Daisy Ridley constantly does in her portrayal of Rey, is that everything new is exciting and shows wonder. So it's like, I can definitely see why this person likes those moments, because he finds wonder to be to be more enjoyable to watch, rather than the other, what we just saw.
Film. When you look at it, Luke's narrative is pretty darn choppy. He's still in my top 5 favourite characters in all of the saga, but it's just when you look at under the microscope, it gets very much left to be desired.
Okay, this can be said of any character in any space opera. There's not much to them, and that's fine. That's not the point. You don't need this big, rich character. You just need just enough to understand what he's going through and what he's trying to do. Where does he come from was even unnecessary. It's nice to know. Like we take, what's his name from The Fifth Element? He's an ex-military guy. He's in a taxi cab job. Average dude, right? Really good at fighting. That's all we know about him. We don't need his backstory. We don't need his tragic loss of his wife or this or that. You don't need that stuff.
No, not every writer is George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, and you don't have time to talk about all these elements in a fast-paced action-adventure sci-fi flick.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, thanks for coming over, man. Like, sharing a couple drinks with me. Been
what is
talking
going
about
on?
That video, been stepping on your tail a little bit recently. Just
it's the next morning after. Like,
no worries.
Having
a good time.
Look, I understand. Totally get your position. For a while,
He's trying to build some kind of narrative through these skits.
A bit of an uptight asshole, but but for this time.
he talks with his hands a lot. Is he Italian?
Drinks, I feel good, and I do thank you, but I've some good news. I got a bit of a surprise for you, so keep it down a little bit. But
a little juicy.
So I know your birthday's coming up, so I know next month Elton John's coming down to where we are, so I've got to go see Elton John next month. How's that sound?
Yeah, I already knew that one. Sorry, man. Just already knew.
Already knew that you were gonna go to the con.
I knew that you were gonna do that for me. I knew.
Kind of does ruin.
Is he trying to make a point about the scene before?
Up in here,
I was looking forward to.
Are they drinking or are they just holding the bottles?
No, he's making. I see what he's doing here, because he's talking about the reveal with Leia being Luke's sister, and then his main point of contention was her only response was "I know," and then she says, "Well, in a way, I've always known." And then it's now him doing the same thing, where he's overemphasizing how awkward that is in a scene, where he's just like, "Yeah, I know. Well, I was planning to go see the Elton John review."
I'm more pissed off that the beers aren't open.
They're just holding the beers.
They're just holding beers.
Yeah, I too just hold beers with my mates.
It's like, I don't have a bottle opener, neither do I. Let's just hold beers like we're talking together. It's like, what? Are we doing yard work out here? What's going on? In my suit.
You gotta have a bottle opener on your keychain.
Yeah.
Gotta.
You shouldn't have. And
yeah, sorry about that.
Did it last night. I was alone. It was like
yeah, that is awkward.
I'm really down right now. But hey, look at these tickets. It's a decent price. I thought.
It's probably because it's not their beer.
Now you know.
It's probably a parent's beer.
Are they underage?
Well, on the note of surprises, I've been you putting in a lot of
looking at like the property of where they are. I think this is probably his parents' property.
I think this is Australia. I don't know where this is. Some tropical trees here. I don't know. Could be Florida.
I'm making these videos later. This one's taking you a bit, but I thought I'd chip in. Get you a nice new camera. Filming your videos and whatnot. So
yeah, awesome. Already have been planning to use that camera for the Sherlock Holmes video next week. Yeah, already kind of planning to use it. It's in the logbook of what equipment we're taking out to
oh dear.
And everything.
Please, sir, keep going.
Doing it again.
How?
If you're gonna do skits, make them funny.
Well, we're finally on Ray. Took about half the video.
I think from a writing perspective, Rey, for the most part in The Force Awakens, but for the entirety of The Last Jedi, was going on such an interesting path. The idea of isolation and finding your place in the world.
Okay, so every argument you just made against Anakin and Luke, you can make 20 times over with Rey. Awkward scenes, there's plenty of those. Bad acting, oof, a lot of that.
Lots of bad.
Structural problems with the story.
So now you can kind of see where the word hypocrite may come in, just a little bit, or maybe double standards. That's also, well, I suppose it's 2 words.
Well, it's just another subjective interpretation.
The only thing
they say Rey is good because she's interested. This is the worst thing to say about a character. I've said this before.
Yeah.
They're interesting to me. It's like, what do you mean, sir? Please tell us.
What element specifically? You know, in order, because when you talk about that as in an argument, what element do you find interesting? Oh, well, I find the arc of individuality, or the this, that, and the other, and it's really well the way they interpret it into the film, and they mess around with it, and then they do the plot twist. I'm not bringing you any kind of specific. I'm just pulling off things off the top of my head. But that would be an example of how you talk about something and how you're interested in it.
Here is Alex Halo. Leia is Luke's sister. Weebs. Sweet Home Alabama. Oh, boy. I think that's a dig on Alabama, but I don't know. I'm not American. I don't know. Could be.
Whole bunch of cousin marriage.
Oh, okay. Hey, you do you. Whatever Alabama's doing, you keep going, okay? No one's stopping you. God bless America.
Are such interesting narrative points, and in the latter case, it was able to seamlessly blend in like the hero's journey type narrative with the deeper meaning.
Really, there was a hero's journey narrative. Okay, just, I seem to not. Yeah, I seem to have missed that, but okay.
I think the bets are that, and the Force Awakens are good, and that it's a good journey, and then Rise of Skywalker screwed it up. It was accurate based on what we're seeing right now.
So she's interesting, and she had a hero's journey. I'm like, wow, okay.
Deep
characterization.
Did she though? She never.
No, it's.
She never went back to. She never went back to Octo. She never went back. She never went back to her friends.
Well,
I guess I don't know.
She had a plot point. Get Luke, it failed. Get another plot point. Get Kylo, it failed. Go back to the Resistance, and that was like she ends up where she started. Like nothing changed except a lot more dead people, and that's it. She didn't do anything. That's not a journey. That's just going somewhere and nothing happens. Twice over.
Work essentially.
Ideas, creating something that really can reside with the audience, which just elevates it. Whether that be about failure or the concept of meeting your heroes isn't what it's ought out to be, there is always something deeper to look at with most scenes.
Luke was never her hero. I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
You know, you could pull out some quotation marks, deep themes in the prequels, talking about how easy it is to fall to darkness or something, or how hard it is to resist the temptation of blah blah blah, as Anakin resists the temptation to fall to the dark side but ultimately fails. Or you could pull out themes with anything. It doesn't automatically make it amazing. Like, this is just double standards here. He's more than happy to say all these things about this, and then, you know, the things that you could also say about this, you could put towards that, but you don't.
I like people to have I give critics the benefit of the doubt that they don't know stuff, so they say if this is interesting, there's something that appeals to them. And it's like, okay, so they've never encountered this before, they've never thought of it before. Great, okay, you found something you like that is unique or special from your perspective. Show us and tell us why. And that's fine, because you could be an ignoramus and, you know, discover sugar for the first time, go, wow, I've never had that before. And then we're like, you know, in the candy shop going, okay, sure, all right, yeah. Here's the world of sweets, and I'm going to open it for you, and you can come in. You know, the first one's free, whatever analogy you want to make there. And we'll show you how that works. But these people won't come with us into the Candy's van or wherever we're taking this analogy. Like they're not bothering to listen. So I don't know. This is almost another waste of time for us. We're like, okay, another argument where I like something, therefore it's good. You're like, oh, okay. Well, I like Darth Vader's red lightsaber, therefore it's good. Like, oh, okay.
Involving her. The only thing holding her back, unfortunately, which is very similar to Luke, is the delivery and the way that it handles all the information in its finale. When talking about Rey, I do want to focus on the key aspects and attributes she uniquely has, mainly on how her narrative is intertwined with the film's narrative she is respectively in.
Okay.
You have no place in the story. You come from nothing. You're nothing.
Rey, as a character, is haunted by her past. She only desires...
No, she's not.
You're pulling that out your ass. Haunted by her past, she just can't get over her parents. That's not haunting.
She doesn't. She misses someone. That's not being haunted.
Didn't she have a big cry?
Haunted by not having parents. Oh.
She must have had a good cry last week when she was... had a talk to or sit down with Orange Lady. And she says they're not coming back. She's
Haunted
like, oh,
would be...
Oh, no.
Haunted could be something like, oh, her parents died, like, horrifically, and that's something that she can never get over. Haunting is implying, specifically with your past, is something that's constantly hanging over you that you can't get over. Something that's traumatic.
Yeah.
There's nothing traumatic about her past.
Think of an abandoned child or anyone in a nursery or something like that where they never knew their parents. Can you like be scared of something or be sad of something that you've never had? I'm kind of curious if that's... We don't know exactly much about her background. Like she was like 4 years old or whatever. I guess that's enough time to develop relationships with your parents, but you would have grown up really fast.
She seems remarkably well adjusted for somebody who is probably rape for most of her life.
That suddenly got dark.
Well, you're talking about a desolate desert planet. What do you do on this planet? What can you get away with?
There's a lot of dudes. There's a lot of dudes around.
No, we can't assume anything about her life because there's nothing there. So hold on a second. Let me just outline what's happening. So Luke gets delivered to Tatooine. He's delivered to Obi-Wan or whatever. Obi-Wan watches over him. Anakin is born and with a Virgins of the Force, which we assume Palpatine or something had something to do with that. Something somewhere. And then Watto is the Unkar Plutt, basically. Uncle Butt. And so what happens is it's Uncle Obi-Wan, Uncle Watto, essentially, or Uncle Butt. And Rey's background is basically the same as Anakin's combined with Luke's. So the issue that we have is what in that equation that's not a reference to Star Wars that's actually in The Force Awakens defines Rey's character outside of that paradigm. And the issue is, all that we see is that she's used as...
Message coming in.
Unkar Plutt is essentially using her as like immigrant labor. Like she's working underneath the table, basically. She's getting underpaid for the amount of labor that she does. There's no evidence at all that she's ever been abused or hurt or anything, because she kicks everybody's ass and she doesn't seem upset about anything and she doesn't want to be anybody's friend. And what interests me is that this is not an environment where you could reasonably assume that a person like this could grow up. And the irony is, even though Anakin is like 11 years old or 10 years old or whatever, I don't know how old he is, but the way that Watto treats him and the way that his mother treats him implies that there's a functioning system that exists on this planet and a culture where slaves are used but not necessarily abused. They're just labor. And none of those kids, because they're the producers' kids on The Phantom Menace, are getting beaten by their slavers. You never see Shmi getting beaten or have any bruises or anything like that. And so you just don't get any of that. Even in Hut space, in the OT, when it's kind of outside of the reaches of the Empire, but it's now controlled by the Empire, people are still not really being abused. So the darker tones in Star Wars are not there. And that's why it's hard to believe in Rey's character, because it's like, okay, so for this amount of time, she's supposed to be, what, early 20s or late teens or something like that.
Message coming in.
What was she doing?
Patch
Who did
it
she have a crush on when she was a kid? Where's her friends? Who did she hang out with? How did she learn about doing any scavenging? Who taught her? Questions that regular people are just going to have, that they have no idea what's going on. And we're just supposed to associate based on the previous paradigm that we're used to. Like, oh yeah, of course a Star Wars character starts in the desert. That's what you do. Without that, there's almost nothing for you to extrapolate any inferential information. All you can assume is that she and Uncle Butt are somehow know each other, that they have a relationship because he owns her or something. But she's not really his slave because he pays her. So it's indentured servitude? What was the deal? And this goes back to me and my Phantom Menace thing. What was the deal between Unkar Plutt and Rey's parents? And who told her that they would be back? Why does she assume that? That's not in the narrative. So we can't assume shit about Rey. Poorly written.
Okay, here's Taker 610. Thank you, sir. And Alex Halo, Star Wars won't get as dark as Danganronpa with our... No, I don't think it will. Danganronpa is a murder mystery video game, so... And it's just a twisted universe that it's in. So no, that is a whole other thing to talk about. And specific to the Japanese subgenre of manga anime-ish tropes. I don't know how to characterize it. It's such a strange story. I can only go so far with it. But anyway. Yes. Not a good way of setting up a character when you have all these weird questions pop up in the first 10 minutes trying to ascertain Rey's character and all the questions it comes up with.
Return for her. Alone, isolated, and when she gets this call to action, her initial reaction is to deny it and run away. She has no interest in helping the resistance, similar to Luke's initial denial to the same call. As time goes on, she realizes they need her, and to save her friends, she has
No. She runs away, and then she gets caught, and then she keeps trying to escape, and then the movie ends. That's it.
Yeah. At the very end, when she goes to get Luke, one could infer that she's been convinced to take on this mission, but we don't understand why. Just as I guess I'm with these people now is explanations for anything.
She's got nothing else. She's got a ship she really liked from a guy she really liked who's dead now. So it's like, hey, I may as well take the thing he gave me. Why not?
It's just, where did
she was really haunted? Oh, I was just gonna say, if she was really haunted like that guy says, like this guy says, then she would be afraid to leave the planet. She would be trying to get back there as soon as possible. But we never see that. We get like 1 or 2 lines. And then no follow through without change for motivation.
All right, let's just keep on going because this is going to drag on for a bit.
To go on a quest to get a knight Luke Skywalker, which by this time in the galaxy is a legend, a myth, and lost to time. Her hopes are quickly squandered, and the meeting of her hero couldn't have gone worse, which just happens to be one of the 2 major themes of the film. She is still reluctant to the idea of becoming that Jedi who will save the Resistance. And that kind of connects to the other major theme of the film, and that's that, and actually most of the other characters have to learn as well, and that is that by looking at the past, seeing where you've gone wrong, is a way to move forward. And
you're pulling this out of your ass.
Yeah, I don't know where these themes are coming from. What is he talking about?
Well, okay, you're specifically inferring that this is with the scene where, they're flying off and crashing into the thing, and then Finn gets crashed into, and then that stops them from this, and then that, and then Poe calls them back because reasons. You piss out your ass. The fuck?
Yeah. If Poe had
message coming in,
had his completed arc at the beginning of the movie, then they all would have died as soon as they made the jump to hyperspace. If what is it? If the Holdo hadn't had any plan, right? Then they all would have died because they're like, just completely passive characters. And so their arc was like, oh, you should blindly believe in your leaders and do whatever they say and trust that they have a plan, even if they won't communicate it to you at all or even say that there is a plan. That was their arc, that they should just not try to live, not try to better their own situation. It's like, oh, these are great arcs.
Is actually the opposite of this, to destroy everything with violence and animosity, and that our protagonists choose to learn from their mistakes. When people go, Rian Johnson, you're a no-talent hack, you killed Star Wars, you're useless, you're shit at writing, it really makes me kind of confused, because a lot of them use the argument of, why do you want to kill the past, when that's the whole point of view of the villain.
He did my
But people...
Did you?
But people kept going to the villain to say, oh, the kill your past narrative is a good way to live your life, and that's a fucking terrible way of living your life.
And so what if it's the villain?
Yeah.
You're saying
it's something that a lot of people were... It was the reason why so many people talk about that thing and how terrible it is, because so many people were taking it as a serious thing you should actually listen to, which really? That's terrible. Yeah, like even Boogie 298 or whatever his name was, he kept going on about how much of a great message that is for you, to tell in your story. It's like, holy fuck, no, it isn't.
School of Movies went on and on about how that's a great message, and they're idiots.
You're kidding.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Was it?
They did.
Jenny.
Yeah. A podcast about it.
Jenny Nichols, and Movie Bob have horrible takes on the message of Joker, and they dislike it, right? So not believing them, their horrible takes. It's like, okay, sure, yeah, but just as Dunn pointed out, people who liked the movie were taking this away. So you've got people who were criticizing the film weren't saying that the message of the film was Kylo Ren's line. They were repeating Yoda's line and complaining about it. The people who were toting Kill the Past were people who liked the film.
People just didn't really care. Like, they just saw it as like a meta comment. Here's the best teacher.
I'm just trying to wrap my brain around how killing the past is ever a good thing.
Well, some people were trying to infer it as moving on from your past, but killing is something very different. At least that's the way Boogie 298 was talking about it. The way he was talking about it was more along the lines of moving on from it. Not letting it keep you down. But as I said, killing is different than moving on. There's a difference between killing a relationship and moving on from a relationship.
Yeah.
You have learned strength, mastery, but weakness, folly, failure also. Yes.
Why? Where?
Failure, most of all.
Most of all, you are a failure, Luke. Fuck you, Luke. And he looks at the Yoda puppet like, bruh, I did everything you asked me to do.
It's kind of like the only actual ethical system you should embrace is nihilism. The world is empty. There's no point to anything, and you're just gonna die. So do whatever is the main ethos of this movie.
Yeah. Why did Luke suddenly help out Rey or whoever else? Why? Why did he have to do?
She got a fat ass girl. Sorry.
Yeah. Is there any logical reason why Luke did this?
I don't know. If Rey's
I seriously think that the last arc
butt girl, I don't know. I don't want to know what thin butt girls looks.
Rey, your butt is too thin. You will never be a Jedi. You must do squats and kegels.
You gotta get thick, babe.
Yeah, no, I seriously think that Crate was tacked on by the Star Wars story group. It doesn't fit well with the. It's too much of an about face for from the rest of the movie to feel like it was done by the same writer. Either that or
no, but don't you understand? It was masterfully added. They were so masterful. They joined all three plots together at the end. Don't you understand?
I like the idea of massful. It's full of massive.
Yeah.
I think if we examine Rian Johnson's, it actually might be possible because Rian Johnson said that 90% of the film was his first draft. Okay,
yeah, but it was a fourth
10%, maybe.
Maybe.
That doesn't sound
yeah, it was
good.
It was a fourth arc in a 3-act structure.
I can't
it just feels like it was tacked on by somebody else.
I think it was. I think it was
wrong.
Rian Johnson. I think it is Rian Johnson. I don't see anyone else because again, you're thinking about a time where they were letting the films do whatever the hell they wanted. They buy with the Star Wars story group. If they had any power into story making anything with the films, why would they allow such horrible things and then let the films do? Then they would have control of specific story arcs, especially since the Star Wars story group is supposed to be the ones which are implementing the canon aspects and not the story aspect, like the story pacing aspects.
Well, it's full of fan fiction writers, isn't it? I'm pretty sure I heard that somewhere. That's where they pulled they hired from is fan fiction writers.
The Star Wars story group. Not
definitely
sure.
Don't have Timothy Zahn from. They definitely don't have Timothy Zahn, who's an actual author. That's for sure.
Oh, I love Timothy Zahn. I wish he could just write a sequel trilogy. Just give him a film. He's great. I know, writing a story doesn't necessarily mean you write a good film. But I feel like he is one of those people who, if given the chance, would writing for a film would do fantastically at it.
The greatest teacher, failure is.
This is what makes Rey so interesting. When people say that
why? Because Yoda said something? What?
Because she can subtle theme.
Are you kidding me? A ghost from another era says something, therefore Rey is such an interesting character? Are you joking?
She wasn't even in that scene. It wasn't even about her.
How does she know
Luke?
How does she know that's her calling, or that's her modus operandi to fail and get up again? How does she know that? Is it intrinsic? Is it something that it's part of her lifestyle? Why would you?
People would assume that it is.
But that's ridiculous. That doesn't make her interesting. That has nothing to do with her.
Exactly.
He's talking to Luke. 2 + 2 is 4. Luke heard that, not Rey. Oh my god.
Uh-huh.
Or are they joined by the Force and everyone knows this if you're in tune with it and Rey's super powerful but Luke is turned off and this and that? Is that how this works? It's the Force who did it? Or the Force did it? Oh dear.
Big Force did it and run away.
Yeah. How is Rey so strong? The Force. How does Rey know the theme of the movie? The Force. Oh, okay.
She's a Mary Sue, or just written in the script is strong woman, and is written for SJWs, all that kind of jazz. I just have to disagree. Her feeling.
Do you even know what you're talking about, sir? He said
I would
3
say
different things.
no.
Oh dear.
That may not be written specifically for left-wing crazies.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
Yeah, there's 3 different things he said there. I don't think it's even worthy of taking apart. He's just voicing an opinion and just saying, I disagree. It's that's not helping the argument, sir.
No.
Tyler Preston, don't ask questions, just consume products and then get excited for next. Yeah, she's cool because Yoda said a thing. Like that is wow. I don't see that often in arguments. It's like this part of the film, which has nothing to do with this other character in the story, are somehow related, I guess. Therefore, interesting character. Wow.
Amazing.
Of needing a place of belonging and contentment is something that fits in the movie, but also in real life. Is she going to fall to the dark side? Is she going to be a hero of the light? The film's answer is that it's just going to be way more complex than that. The constant need...
She's alone.
It's just complex.
She's alone. She's never felt so alone in her life, so she reaches out to Ben. Luke doesn't help her. She says, well, all I got left is Ben. I'm going to try and help Ben. And then she can't.
Imagine being in a situation where all you got is your enemy. Osama bin Laden over there.
Yeah.
Oh, touch my hand, Osama.
But it's like he's saying it like it's some deep, complex, like plot theme. But no, it's not. It's not even a complex film.
You know, it'd be funny. She reaches out her hand, and then Kylo just goes and takes out his lightsaber and cuts it off.
You know, Rey reaching out with her hand is symbolic for the people reaching for this fucking film.
Reaching for the channel changer. Oh, there's my remote.
Man, no. If what is it? Oh, I've lost it. Never mind.
All right. Well, we can just speed through this because this is getting silly.
Yeah.
For a fatherly figure, the self-doubt that she has, the blinding optimism she has for other people, but then lacks self-confidence herself. There are so many things that contribute to the character of Rey that go beyond just being a strong character with the Force that kills bad guys with laser swords. And her connection to Kylo Ren is also seriously unique. With
is
most
it?
Films with the hero-verse villain arc,
it's uniquely terrible.
What they do is they meet right before the third act, maybe at the end of the second act if you're lucky and have a good villain, and they fight over something that only matters for the sake of the plot. Whether that be an Infinity Stone or a MacGuffin-like staff or a special bomb, villains are normally one-note and destructive, and very rarely do they shape
Kylo
or written to complement them. You have your Jokers and your Punishers, which are able to be written seamlessly into the plot for the heroes and villains to...
Rey is also one-note protagonist.
And not just going, I'm going to beat you in combat. And having a strong connection...
I'm going to beat you in combat.
...connection, not only in just one scene debating, but throughout the feature length of the film, really gives growth to both characters. And with Kylo Ren...
What? You're projecting!
Wow. The whole sequel trilogy...
This is not in the film!
As he is only helps Rey in her narrative as well. Little things I do want to touch on are things like
Rey doesn't have a perspective.
It shows that Rian Johnson does understand the character of Rey. She's lived on a desert planet for her whole life.
You have picked out one of the better scenes of the film. Congratulations. Yes, she's interested by the water. Great. Thank you for the little bit of character development. The rest of the fucking film shit, though. So fuck off.
Rey feels something when she touches something. It's wow. It's great.
She's been on a desert planet for a long time, and then she touches water. It's like okay.
But then, okay, do you know something?
That's not that impressive. That's
do you want to know something that's against this scene of Rian Johnson understanding the character? The fact
when
she can fucking swim.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really stupid and devoid of reality.
Yeah, this is a really simple but also nice detail. I'll give you that. But that is not a saving grace of the entire character and the entirety of the film.
You know what? I thought she would have climbed down because she's a scavenger and she does rappelling so she wouldn't get wet and she would swing over to the ledge because that's her background. But no, she dives right in.
Yeah. No, he's like saying like this is like, wonderful icing on a great cake, and it's like this is a little bit of frosting on a shit pie.
So she's like she's seeing all this water, she's about to drink some, and then Chewie has to like block her because it's like you can't just drink water anywhere, Rey. It's dirty. Do you understand? It's not just like you just get it in a bottle like you did on Jakku.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Well, she's is she a precocious young, never seen anything before, I'm here on an adventure? Or is she some sort of master, a weaponsmith, sword master with language skills and engineering skills, or is she what is she? What is this character? Who is this person? I've never met a person like this in my fucking life, where somebody just like knows shit. They go. Somebody comes to this country. They're like, "Hey, so this is a recent immigrant from Russia, and how he's from Siberia. He's from the wintry deserts of Siberia." And then he just comes up and shakes my hand and goes, "Hello, how are you doing today?" I'm like, well, "How are you so good at English?" "I don't know. I just am." Because like Ray can speak Wookiee, remember? And then he's like, "Hey, I see you got a skateboard over there," and he starts doing kickflips. And I'm like, where did you do kickflips? You were in the snow. He's like, "Hey, anybody want to go windsurfing?" I'm like, "What the fuck?" None of this shit adds up. And it's like, so he's like, I'm like, "How do you know how to do all of this?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, it's this little thing called the Force. I thought it was a myth, but turns out it's real." And then he does a backflip.
I love that analogy. Somebody should make that movie and get all the Razzies.
Siberian Jedi or Siberian Samurai. There you go.
There you go.
Fitting in with the notion that any movie with the name, most movies with the name Samurai in it are terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all parody movies.
Exactly. Yeah, because most people that want to be samurai are like people that are vague weebs, and they just want to be recognized for their masculinity. So they're like, yes, the Jedi, the samurai, they're so like restrained, but they could at any moment cut you up into pieces. And then that person like starts walking around with Naruto headbands on and a samurai sword that they got from the Chinatown store or whatever.
The mall katana.
Yeah, the mall katana, and the mall katana makes the low-budget, terrible film starring Doug Walker.
Yes.
You shut up, Toasty Danny. I'm hilarious.
I was thinking about
Glib
Samurai.
is amazing. Don't shit on Glib.
I'm Tony Hawk, Jedi Master, just like Tyler Preston says.
So the concept of flowing water and dripping and rain, all of that would be kind of like a new world for her. It's like, oh, look, it's rain. It's kind of cool. Snoke using her naiveness against her, doing the whole force bridging thing and just using her like, oh, things will go right. This is just one of them kind of things against her. It shows that every little win that she does get, there's something negative to put her back. And her parents being no one really makes the greatest story of Star Wars more relatable and more comprehensible.
Snoke using her naivete against her for some reason.
Oh, but isn't that a good thing? I mean, that if it wasn't for that, she'd absolutely be a Mary Sue without any without any argument against it. And he's saying that's bad, or is that he's saying that that's a flaw of hers, and it's good that she has flaws.
I don't think he's going that. I don't think he knows what the flaw is yet. I think he's just talking about things he likes.
Okay.
He's just like, I think
maybe he's going to start talking about the ceiling. I'm sorry, that's terrible. I'm actually going to shut up now.
Everyone needs to be related to someone like a Skywalker or an Obi-Wan.
No, he's doing the special blood argument. Fuck off.
Skywalker, because this point just frustrates. More relatable and more comprehensible. Not everyone needs to be related to someone like a Skywalker or an Obi-Wan.
This has to be.
Obi-Wan wasn't related to anyone. Fuck off. Go away.
Somebody in chat asked if this was made before or after Rise of the Skywalker, and this has to be. But this is after.
Yes, it's after.
Okay, so
this is February.
He said that this was after. Like he said, "Oh well, Rise of Skywalker's been out."
Yeah, after it's been 1 month since then. So February 2020.
Yeah, a couple months. Yeah, and he's still making these arguments.
Yeah. These are one of the worst we've heard. Not the worst, but this is one of like I like it. This stuff happens. This is good. It's like, no, it's not an argument.
Fits with the circle. Fits with the usual circle jerk arguments.
Yeah, I like it because it's cool. That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but to his credit, he hasn't praised anything from the Rise of Skywalker. My guess is that that's the and why not is going to be all. The why not is going to be the Rise of Skywalker. It's going to start any second.
That's the common opinion, though. They love TLJ and hate Rise of Skywalker because of the setup for TLJ.
the thing.
Done? Hello?
Related to Obi-Wan. Sorry.
Dunn, you cut out. You have to say that again.
Sorry. So, Daisy Ridley herself going with the idea of making Rey related to Obi-Wan in The Force Awakens.
Could you say that one more time?
Come on! Okay. So, essentially, Daisy Ridley said in an interview with Josh Gad that they were toying with the idea of making Rey a Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it was the Emperor, and then they said, "Oh, we're not sure," and then they finally decided on the Emperor. It's really weird.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just a mess.
It's not a bloodline; it's a force line.
Oh God. I don't know.
Yes, it all makes sense now. Force
Well,
ring theory, poetry, rhyme theory.
Invent more lore bullshit to make reasons that Rey is strong again. Okay.
In the new world, writing isn't important. What's important is how you write the movie for them as the audience. Isn't that reader response theory? Isn't that what that's about?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, what it says is that the text of the film changes based off of your interpretation of the film, which doesn't make any sense. The text is hard written; it's there. It doesn't change. Your perception, what you take away from it is subjective and personal and whatnot. But the reader response theory actually suggests that your personal interpretation changes what the text is literally meaning.
So essentially what it is headcanon, the literary theory.
Is that what reader's response theory is?
Yeah. No, I mean, I looked it up back when, the Just Right video was being covered by Mahler and Wolf. And yeah, that's what reader response theory is. It's horrible.
Wow.
It's just
at most it can give you marketing data on what your audience cares about. That's what all that reader response theory can really give you is marketing data. It doesn't. Yeah.
It lends itself to death of the author book, but it's such a over the top exaggeration, really, of what you see is what is real, and it's like, yeah, you get whatever you get out of it, but that's from your perspective, which can be dumb and stupid or overly biased, and which is not what you want when you appreciate something. You want to know the truth. You want to see something with intelligent backgrounds and look at things with the proper colors. You don't just want to sit there and go, well, that could have been blue. I can't remember. And I like blue, so therefore it was a good film. Not only that, but it was on a sunny day, and I love the sun, so I felt warm in the theater. Therefore, it wasn't really dark outside. I was like, wait, what? No, what are you... Like, you can't just start rationalizing your way through why you like something in defense of it. It's not effective. It's not helpful. It's silly. I mean, you could be biased towards your wife or your girlfriend because you love them and everything they do is perfect. That's fine. I don't care. But we're talking about a piece of media that is not a living thing. It's right there. You could watch it and consume it like anyone else. And if you don't know English, then you're already having a problem. Or if you don't know the language that it's written in. So, what a horrible way of interpreting things. Okay, we got 3 minutes.
Seen his point later when I'm talking about the Rise of Skywalker, because this point just frustrates me. Rey in the first two films just has some seriously deep themes that people can just relate to. Yes, the idea of family...
Really? Okay. I really never related to her being alone.
It's...
my fucking themes!
Fuck off with the themes argument, for God's sake.
You can...
Fuck off!
The problem with the theme argument is that you can apply themes to really shitty movies and things that are put together in a horrible way and just make excuses for it. So if I said the theme of the Disney Channel movie Brink is being faithful to yourself and not selling out to your corporate overlords who are just trying to control your source of free expression and your outward expression of personality and individuality. It's like, yeah, okay, that's what the movie's about, but the movie is also a Disney Channel cliched piece of shit made by a corporation to promote something that they don't believe in or don't care about because they know that the kids that are buying into their bullshit care about it. Like,
they just care about pandering to stupid people.
Well, what I don't like is somebody goes, okay, here's the theme of the movie. And I say, okay, but what about the theme of making the movie? The theme of this movie as an entity in culture. Like, you can extrapolate in any direction you want to. What we're trying to deal with is quality and quantities that are in the movie. And so the themes, when they come up, they're just like coping mechanisms. Like, yeah, you know, the script wasn't really well written. It's a little inconsistent. Actually, it's a lot inconsistent. But it looks so beautiful, and the themes are so personal, and anybody can relate to them. So, yeah, I understand that. Almost every single theme that you can think of can be relatable because it's a human theme, something that people go through. But translating that into a meaningful story that shows somebody something new, or something that they've seen before in a new light, or has a message that is worth paying attention to, is absent from this. There's no good message from this movie except for failure is the best teacher, and I'm not convinced of that. I'm not convinced that success or failure aren't equal in some way, or that they're just, you know, it depends on your perspective and how you take in that failure. It's so. The themes of these movies compared to the themes of the original trilogy and the themes of the prequels, they pale in comparison because they're not consistent. They're not.
It doesn't even excuse all the terrible writing flaws in these films. That they're horrible. Yeah. You can't just fix a film by saying, "Well, you know, there are some really relatable themes." Like, what about this writing flaw over here? It's quite big and it's quite glaring, and I think it's going to eat the film. It's like, oh, but it's amazing. The theme is like, what about that writing flaw over there? You've got a terrible character. You've got inconsistency, plot hole, inconsistency, plot hole, inconsistency.
Glib, were you listening earlier?
I was trying to, yeah.
Well, I don't know if you heard, but he was saying that the OT doesn't have a theme. That's its flaw.
Really? Isn't the theme of Empire Strikes Back failure is the best teacher? Isn't the theme of no? You know what I mean? Like, there's every single film has a theme. You know what I mean? Or
at least a theme you can derive from it.
How about Return of the Jedi, the theme that you can redeem the sins of the father? That's a pretty major theme. How about the theme of fighting against tyranny, standing up for what you believe in, having self-restraint? Every single thing that Yoda says is part of the greater theme of what the Jedi are supposed to be about. But, you know, the idea that everything is... Actually, I would say that because of the theme... I think this is actually... And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to take this... Don't negate what I just said, but I'm ditching it. I'm throwing it in the garbage. Mm-hmm. I think that ideas are more interesting to me than themes in a movie. Because the theme can just be like whatever you want it to be. But actually considering an idea and promoting it or producing it or criticizing it in a movie with a story takes a level of panache that just saying, oh, the theme is about falling in love with someone who doesn't love you. Like, that's not the same as the idea of dealing with the idea that somebody doesn't love you, and then how do you respond to that? How does a character actually functionally deal with that situation, if that's the point of the story? Because I think that there is a point behind a story that responds to an idea or that responds to a notion, and that to me is one of the interesting things about film. Making a theme, a theme by itself is something I can relate to, but it's not interesting on its own. The theme of a love story, that could be anything. It could be any kind of love story. But the idea of a love story about a particular thing, like the idea, for example, of two people who got out of recent relationships, one of them's widowed, and the other one got a divorce because their wife was cheating on them. And now it's two 40-year-old people trying to reconnect, and they're going back and trying to think about how to date again, even though neither of them have dated in a long time. That idea is really interesting. The theme of being old and then finding love again is not interesting on its own. It may make you feel a certain way to think about that, but it's the idea of what that means that I pick apart. Oh, okay. Now what does that mean for the characters? What does that functionally do to their environment? Because all of those things are what you need to tell the actual story. Themes won't help you tell a story. They'll only outline what you're trying to tell. They'll only try and vaguely inform you. Oh, this is what we want the story to be about, and this is what the story is about. But it's not the story. It's not what actually happens. It's not how we did it, and that's what I've always focused on. That's where I find quality.
Yeah.
I've noticed that people tend to use theme and categorization the same, and I always try to say, well, theme is the conflict of a scene, and the major theme is the majority of conflicts in a movie or a story. So if 51% of your film or story is fighting off the baddies or fighting off the zombie horde, you have a zombie horror story genre, whatever. So I tend to focus on the conflict. So you have individual conflicts. Those could be individual minor themes throughout the film or the story. So man versus machine, man versus self, whatever. You can have all these themes. So when people start saying, well, this is a story about, to me, that's also a theme when you say the term about, but then you're talking about content. You're talking about what's actually in the story. So when they say stuff, well, this is really a story about one man's discovery of himself by going through a harrowing journey of baking with another person in a competition for the best cake. You're like, okay, how much of the film is that there? Maybe there's one scene where they have a flashback where he's referencing his conflict with his dad, and he was, I don't know, in another competition or something with his dad, and his dad died and whatever, and do all this other stupid things. Great. You can connect those two things, but that's not the theme of the film or the story. So I want people to use the proper terms and categorize these things properly, as opposed to just because you could pull anything out of your ass. I could say an idea is a theme. I could say conflict's a theme. I could say emotions are themes, and it becomes this mishmash of words. So I want people to use their own definitions because it's so nebulous when we talk about themes. It's so subjective, and I'd rather have a more concrete material view of these elements, because I want to point to them. I want to time them. I want to say from 2 minutes onward, this is the whole conflict, and then go on to the next scene. That's what I want to see in these discussions. But we don't even get proper understanding of characterization. So if we can't even figure out what this guy's talking about, getting to theme or a message, or the whole thing with Yoda just annoys me, because if Yoda did not open his mouth, we'd have no idea what was going on. They would have no idea aside from what Kylo said. So,
but that's because it's so subtle.
Yeah,
it's so subtle themes.
It's so up in the air and pointless. Yeah, it's great, fantastic. It's like look at The Princess Bride. I know exactly what the theme is there. Everyone knows it.
Well, I'm sorry to say this, Smud, but I think you're watching movies wrong.
Yeah, I know. Oh dear. All right, we still have 3 more minutes. Oh,
this is surprisingly fast.
Well, there's not much to say.
Point, but the idea of being a nobody drives that point harder than being related to the equivalent of Space Hitler, which the franchise has done before with much greater success. And lastly,
Space Hitler.
This entire thing.
I want you to join me.
I love you, Ray.
Look at her face. What is that face considering? Like, she's like,
yeah,
she's considering lunch.
What
am I gonna have for lunch?
What am I gonna join you and do? What do we do? What are we gonna do? I'm gonna bring peace to my new empire.
I'm gonna teach those African children JavaScript.
We're gonna rip off the prequels together.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much the prequel setup. Yeah.
New order to the galaxy.
Don't do this, Ben.
Don't do this, Ben.
Bring
You're
order.
such a fucking idiot.
Dude, they don't even fucking know each other. Like, it's don't do this, Ben. It's like you don't even know him as Ben. He's been Kylo this whole time.
Why doesn't she have an argument like, instead of don't do this, why doesn't she just go, why do you want to do that? Don't you have anything better to do? Like, have an actual conversation person to person. Like, is this really what you want for yourself? Look at all around you. Do you want this to happen to you? Do you think this stops? Do you think that the cycle of history stopped just for you and your power? Think about the history of the Sith, Ben. Don't you know anything about? And she calls him Ben. That's supposed to be the whole thing, right? Like, oh my God, she didn't call him Kylo. She sees through the lies of the Sith, whatever. But the actual thing is that all of this thematic, super dramatic, dripping with maple syrup levels of thickness, it's supposed to be meaningful, but there's nothing behind the words because these two people are basically trying to decide what's going to happen to the entire galaxy. Like if he agreed with her, the First Order would then become some sort of peaceful group or something, right?
How would that go? Yeah, how would that work?
What would happen? I don't understand.
Yeah, and yet all she can say is, "Dude, you're being told cringe."
She should have said that. That would have been better dialogue if she said, "Ben, that is cringe," and he was like, "Oh, "I'm sorry, I'm just trying to be a meme lord."
That's fucking stupid, Ben.
Ben, you killed your own dad, and why did that make you feel good? You're a fucking asshole. Come on, dude. Why would I join you? You're being a dickhead. I mean, it was cool that we teamed up together. We're really powerful, but why don't we go do something else? Like, I don't know, go to Dexter Jetsters, get a fucking snow cone, something like that.
Or hang out on Naboo.
What do you know, Kylo Ren?
I'll have a Java juice. Java juice.
I actually don't mind Adam Driver. I think he's the only good actor. Kind of the only good actor, and he kind of consistently gets crapped on by this series. It sucks.
I mean, he's a good actor, but he doesn't do any good acting in the sequels, I would say.
Oh, I concur completely.
Yeah, but you could say this about a lot of the actors, like, you know, that they didn't really deserve what they were given in the sequel trilogy, and they could have been so much better if they were given someone who actually knew what they were fucking doing.
The only actor I think that like kind of elevates the script is Mark Hamill. He's kind of the only one that rises above the material and gives a better performance than the material deserves. It's kind of like Kevin Sorbo in God's Not Dead.
But he's still not Luke Skywalker.
He's
Anthony
definitely
Daniels. Anthony Daniels, I thought, did well. C-3PO.
Actually, yeah, I would say that in like the Rise of Skywalker, at least, because he was barely in the other films, I would say C-3PO is actually one of the only consistent characters who acts like they should and feels like they like. C-3PO was easily some of my favorite scenes in the sequels.
Because it actually made you feel like you were watching Star Wars again. You're like, oh yeah, it's Star Wars all of a sudden. What's going on? When did C-3PO get here? And then R2-D2 does nothing.
Well, because they had.
I was gonna say I do my best not to get upset about Star Wars anymore and try and just like meme on it and be distant from it.
I was gonna say they didn't really need R2 now. They have BB-8. They have a replacement cute droid.
We replaced you, you old droid. We don't need you anymore. We have our merchandisable soccer ball that nobody gives a fuck about. No, Star Wars is Alderaan, and I am the Death Star. That's how I look at it now.
The perspective is I will always be angry at incompetent work as somebody who strives for quality.
That's good. Keep that, yes. Let the hate flow through you.
I think I don't... Like, what infuriates me more is the way people handle... Because I don't hate the prequels for a start. Because even though they are horribly written and they make a lot of mistakes, I think what angers me more is that the people who try and defend it like it's some amazing masterpiece, and you don't really see that often. And it's the people who talk about it like talk about the sequel specifically that talk about it like it's this great masterpiece. And then you get people like Rian Johnson who can't accept the problems in their own film. Like when he said, "I've never heard a legitimate problem with my film with The Last Jedi." That's the point I start to get really pissed, like legitimately pissed. Not me overacting like I do on the podcast for comical effect. It's that, and that's one of the. That's what makes me angry. People saying that something is good when that's not the case at all. Because otherwise, I couldn't care less about the sequel trilogy. Because I just don't view it as Star Wars. And when I think of Star Wars, I go back to the originals. I go back to Clone Wars. I go back to Jedi Fallen Order. Or I go to KOTOR. Or I go to all these other media, which are very easily accessible that I can call Star Wars, that I can sit down and just enjoy.
It sounds like the mentality of someone who's never gotten a bad mark in creative writing class, when we know Rian Johnson probably didn't even take a creative writing class, let alone get a good mark. So it's a very egotistical thing to say that my work is so amazing I never heard anything bad. It's just silly. And he knows there are hordes of people that have bashed his movie.
But he doesn't think any of them are valid. I think his specific words were he's never heard a valid criticism.
That doesn't make any sense to me. That can't be a rational mindset of a writer. There's no
Probably
way.
is.
No, there's
probably
no way.
He's probably stereotyping them as like he's probably using the morality argument of like anybody who hates my film must have a problem with diversity and is a racist, sexist man baby.
Yeah, I'll have to view anyone who just doesn't like his film. That's exactly how he sees it.
Well, no, he doesn't listen to people, so of course he hasn't heard any good arguments because he doesn't listen.
Hmm.
No, you're still holding on.
You're holding on.
You're holding on to the poo.
Join me. It'll be great. This is how you change people's minds. Scream at them.
Well, this is what they're doing. You're still holding on to the film being good. You have to let go.
Whoa, no.
Yeah.
I do not think you need a full plan to get across a story or an arc at its best. The issue with Ray is that JJ changed his mind on what direction to take her at the last minute. And if I turn my mind off...
No. That's not the issue. But I love that you just buy into it because you're a fucking fanboy. You total loser. Haha, yeah, get a job, hippie.
Buying into the idea that like JJ had a plan and there was any measure of sticking to it, even without Ryan saying, "Alrighty, all these mystery boxes. Alright, drops trousers, sits in it, takes a dump. Alrighty, all in a day's work. What's the next thing? Oh, I'm gonna do a crappy murder mystery movie."
Hey, let's take this thing that has a series of events and fuck up the series of events because we don't have a consistent plan. That's good storytelling. That makes Ray a great protagonist, and why not? It's just look. All this shit is a coping mechanism. Just admit the movies are bad. Admit they're written in a poor manner. Admit that the production was terrible. They didn't have a plan, so they started to make contradicting elements. And it's a massive failure. And the only reason why you like it is because you're a little fanboy and you grew up with it. And you don't like the idea that something that you liked as a kid could fall apart. But that's entropy, sweetie, honey, baby child. That's what happens.
Everything you love will be destroyed at some point.
Everyone you love will die! So you better enjoy yourself while you can.
I just realized he could have paid like $100 to someone on Fiverr to write the whole script for him, and probably gotten all kinds of accolades. Because someone on Fiverr or any of those websites that they really want your work, they're really trying hard to do a good job. So they would write the most straightforward plot and try to make sense of episode 8. Going, okay, there's very few people left, and we don't know who Ray is, and all right. Leia's still around. Great, we can work with that. Oh, no, we can't. Leia's dead, or she's going to die, or the actress is dead, so we can't use that. All right, so he has all these limitations, and he has to work with that. It's like, okay, I can play with this. Whereas what we got was a mishmash of God knows what, of whoever committee. I don't even know how that came about. I don't know how it came. Like, would one person do that? I don't think so. I think that's too much for one person to reasonably put together in a logical succession of events. I just like, I don't think someone would do that. I think someone else jumped in there like every 5 minutes and went, okay, let's do this, let's do that.
I don't know how anybody other than a deranged crazy monkey could think of this stupid knife thing.
I think JJ though from the 80s went, oh, I love Indiana Jones. That was a great film.
I love the Goonies.
The Goonies was good too, yeah.
I love the Goonies. Yeah, I still need to watch the Goonies, but yeah, it's just everybody makes the joke that it's crap. Big Goonies plot.
And just try to everything from The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, then maybe maybe I can enjoy her arc in The Rise of Skywalker. But to suddenly go, Rey is one of the most important people in the entire galaxy, being related to the Emperor just seems like a massive contradiction.
Yes, it is.
What?
And it'd be all okay.
It's like a what? What did he say?
Massive contradiction.
Like a what?
Rey being related.
Yeah, because it is. It's JJ saying "screw you, Ryan."
Yeah, that's great.
That's hilarious.
What he doesn't recognize is that number 8, The Last Jedi, was kind of FU to The Force Awakens. That it tossed away all the significant plot points and story direction in order to make his own film. And so then Turnabout is fair play, and JJ did that to Ryan. And then everyone's like, oh no, now it's bad. It's like, it was bad before. They were fighting before. This is just the latest entry in the fight.
That name and use it for a force of good. Like the name Palpatine now doesn't mean taking over the Galactic Senate and causing tyranny, but instead, when people think of Palpatine, they think of Rey.
No.
But instead, she now goes by Skywalker because of off-screen development with Leia. Like, obviously, she hasn't spent enough time with Luke to do this action, and everything with Leia is just insinuated because, yes, Carrie Fisher died, but it just seems so cheap.
How is that not the case in The Force Awakens and then The Last Jedi? She doesn't know Luke. She doesn't know Chewie. She doesn't know any of these characters, really. They only know each other for like a day. And Han Solo just died like that day. So why is she taking all of their shit? She just gets their shit. There's nobody else in the universe. Yeah. There's nothing else going on. She's always been the center of attention in the entire saga. If the sequel trilogy didn't have Rey in it, nothing would happen.
Patching it through.
She's the linchpin behind everything. She's the most important person in the universe. She is so dense that she absorbs into her gravitational pull every single other thing in the universe. She gets the vehicle that's known, the spaceship that is popular in Star Wars, the lightsaber that's popular in Star Wars, the Chewbacca that's popular in Star Wars. She even gets to win everything and defeat the bad guy that's known in Star Wars. Everything that you know, she's in charge of now. She's the center of everything. Thanks, JJ. This isn't like every other thing that you've done in your entire fucking hack life.
Here is Mark in 3D. The theme of the sequel trilogy is Rey's mouth not closing. She closes it once in a while here and there.
It rarely happens.
It happens.
That's the darkest point in the trilogy, is when she finally closes her mouth.
Logan M. On the spot, give one reason why Rey should be virtuous, aside from...
You didn't have to spend $5 for that.
No, you didn't. She's a hero. A hero should be virtuous. That's pretty standard stuff. But she doesn't have to be. There's no reason for her to be. She could just be confused and angry. That's fine.
No, she has no reason. There's nothing in her character that makes it so that she should have this sense of virtue, because she lives in an environment that has what... I mean, I was saying earlier that where she lives doesn't make any sense. Like, period. That little outpost... Whatever. But yeah, as Dunn is saying, like, if she's a survivalist, she should be pragmatic. She's not pragmatic. She's got a noble, bright thing going on. But when did she learn that? And who did she learn that from?
A good comparison to her is Vin from Mistborn, where she's a street urchin who, like, slowly learns how to use her powers, but she is very untrusting because she grew up in the criminal underworld of a world where she could easily be killed by anybody of the upper class for reason.
Yeah,
and this they'll just kill over food.
Yeah, thieving characters, people who live on the streets, they have a very, very rough upbringing. So it's kind of strange to see Rey in a desert, not a city, not a metropolis where there's running water and this and that. A desert where you have to struggle seemingly every day to get by, just to eat, not to get money, just to eat. It's a pretty rough environment, and she's prim and proper and clean and can defend herself, and she speaks all these languages and owns a speeder, and it's like, wow.
She has a very posh She has a very posh British boarding school accent.
Yeah.
And historically, British accents have kind of always been for the Empire as well. So it's also linking to higher up education and stuff, because obviously the Imperials would be high and proper. They've got all the right schools and everything.
Yeah. Which is why probably a lot of people theorize that she might be some kind of sleeper agent.
Well,
she's a political idealist, not a Skywalker.
I still liked Literature Devil's interpretation. She was a forgetful or a amnesic Padawan. And she doesn't she's just virtuous.
That would make a lot.
Yeah, she's just virtuous for the sake of it. And then she learns that, oh yeah, I had a master and he taught me this and I learned how to do that.
It's the same hack story that they keep telling. I was watching yesterday, because I'm gonna do a review eventually, but I watched Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. And I was thinking about how this film takes the majority of the cast, Shatner and Nimoy. I don't think a lot of people know. Their birthday was like 3 days apart from each other. They were 60 years old when that movie came out. McCoy, DeForest Kelley, was 71 years old. So this is the old cast. This is the equivalent of what we got with the sequel trilogy. 30 years later, we're going to come back. We're going to do it. We're going to... And so what story do we tell? Well, after Final Frontier, after the mess of Shatner kind of directing everybody and doing all this stuff, the writers and the producers clearly got together and they wanted to make a film that all the fans would go, I recognize that, I like that. Oh look, Chekhov's doing something. Oh look, Sulu is a captain on the Excelsior now. Spock is going to be in charge of the Enterprise in most of this. We're going to put McCoy and Kirk over here, and we're going to give everybody an appropriate amount of screen time. And there was no necessity for there to be some child of the main characters that comes in and has to be the young new version of Kirk and the young new version of Spock. There's none of that. There's just satisfying the fans and the story and bringing it to its conclusion, which is, at the end it's like, Starfleet is saying that we need to come in for decommissioning. And then Spock says, if I were human, I would say, go to hell. And then Shatner goes, ha ha ha, yeah, nice. And then they go off on a cruise. So this is the final cruise, and they give the entire speech from the original, which is like the opening, and you get a sense of completion and conclusion. Even after episode 5 of the Star Trek movies is pretty shit. So when we look at something like a Star Wars sequel trilogy, or we look at Blade Runner 2049, or we look at Indiana Jones 4, or we look at fucking Die Hard 5, or we look at any of these fucking hack movies that all have the same idea, it's that there's some young person, even Tron Legacy is like this. Oh, it's my forgotten son. Oh, it's this person that I used to train, but their brain was washed, and now they gotta save me. It's like, no, that's not interesting. I've seen that a billion, million, bajillion times. What I want to see, if we're going to make a 30-year-old sequel, is how these characters have evolved to become older people. Because that's what's going to happen to all of us. So the idea that I get from a lot of these writers is, are you trying to make it for the next generation because you are too inept and inexperienced in life to foresee what being an older person is like? Like, you have... Spock and Kirk talk about how they're trying to get over their older prejudices. McCoy and Kirk have this little aside where they're like, man, we really are getting old, because McCoy's 3 months away from being out of his for retirement. And it's like, that's interesting if you know these characters and you respect the actors and the characters and the production that's trying to round out the series. If the sequel trilogy was trying to do that, they should have done that. But instead, they did this bait thing where it's like, hey, you'll get to see the people that you want. And also, if you don't like this thing, we're going to have new characters in, and they'll be that. And by the time that you get all of that information out, you can't tell an interesting story. It's only going to be one story. It's going to be the young person follows the footsteps of the old person that you liked, and then something climactic happens. Either we lose that person, or there's like a save the day element. It's such a played out trope at this point. And I love perpetually there are these pseudo intellectual people that have a basic knowledge of storytelling, trying to use big words and big concepts to describe the most played out, hollow and shallow method of aging up characters and telling a story about them. It has to be about their kids. That to me is like a negation of how the human experience goes. You have to admit that your characters are getting older in an old franchise, but your fans are getting older, and maybe the new fans like the old content. Go with that. That's what you're doing. But they constantly are trying to do, hey, it's Mutt from Indiana Jones 4. We're putting, what's his name, Shia LaBeouf in. Hey, you like that? You like the replacement for your Indiana Jones being Shia LaBeouf? No? Oh. You like Sam Flynn, Garrett Hedlund? No, you don't like Garrett Hedlund? Well, he's not in any more movies, so clearly we don't like him either. What else? Every single one of these movies. Oh, Daisy Ridley's complaining about how she can't get new work. Because nobody likes her fucking character. Nobody wants to see her fucking face. So it's like, okay.
So what you're saying is we need
another
Christopher McQuarrie to run everything.
We need people who actually understand the core content and give respect to the original stories and storytellers, not people that are trying to do a trace over of their work and then digitize it or something like that.
For McQuarrie, the dude who has made Mission Impossible better than it's ever been.
And by the way, Mark in 3D, the answer to that question is like, what's with Star Trek TNG? It's literally passing the torch. There's nothing wrong with passing the torch. What's wrong is Star Trek Generations, where you have Kirk come back after that nice little roundup. He's somewhere in like a heaven space, and it's like, hey, you gotta ride a horseback with me so that we can beat up the guy from A Clockwork Orange. Why?
And then he dies.
And then he fucking dies and leaves him in a pile of rocks. That's so fucking dumb. It's like
he didn't bring home like one of the greatest heroes of the Federation, one of the greatest explorers. Everyone knows who Kirk is. Just leaves him buried on a planet.
And why did they do that? Because they didn't think that a Star Trek Next Generation movie on its own would be able to succeed. So they brought back 3 people from the original series. And yet on the show, they do in the first fucking episode, they have an ancient McCoy. And then McCoy is like, oh, treat her well and she'll take you home. And then later in the series, they have Scotty come out of a thing and it's a little weird. But even in that sense, they're still trying to explain what the differences are. This is what's changed and this is what stays the same. You will always be respected for what you did. And this is where we're taking it from here. And I think that if we're going to go, Mark in 3D saying like TNG was a mistake. No, the real mistake happens when instead of continuing Star Trek into the future as a progressive series, as our technology gets better and as the technology of the Star Trek universe advances, we need later and later content. Because then you can add new ideas that we would think are out. Like if you don't add these new ideas, like holographic displays, for example. Holographic displays belong in the future of Star Trek, not in the past. And yet the show creators for something like Enterprise or the show creators for something like Star Trek Discovery, they want to go back into the past so that they feel more comfortable and can make it more relatable to regular people of every day, of this era. But that's not what it's about. It's about progressing it into the future and going and trying new ideas out. So the problem that I'm trying to get at is when we make these sequels, they're recursions. They're the same stories told again, and then they're altered to make it so that our main character is now the old, wizened character that has to sacrifice himself or herself to get the rest of the story going and to have our new hero. And to me, that's disrespectful. That's like saying, that's like when new Coke came out or wherever, and they're like, we need to replace Coke. We're taking out the sugar and we're replacing it with high fructose corn syrup. And now it's an inferior product. That's my problem.
I've been waiting for them to do the pitch for Worf that Michael Dorn's been trying to do for 20 years now, and it seems like a very solid thing. But obviously, it's a generational character. But there's not gonna be any life left in him to be Worf anymore. He's gonna be an old man.
Yeah. He's going to be the only story that you can tell that's going to be respectful to him is that if he's like in charge of the Klingon Empire itself, or he's some sort of administrative position, you'd still need a younger character to connect with the audience. That's the problem. So what do? You bring back Alexander? You know what I mean? It's not a good idea to take a character that is sunset at a certain age, bring them out of retirement, and then kill them. That's not respectful to the audience. That's not what people want.
Forget about talking about Picard then. Let's just stop there.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Logan M. Gurkha Bui Maduro. I think I know what that is. On the line here, what was bad about BR 24? Is that Blade Runner? Blade Runner 2049? I think that's what it is. I haven't seen it, so
Yeah.
I can't be clear on that.
Well, Logan, I'll tell you. You already should know this. I know Logan. We're pretty good friends. 2049 and Blade Runner. I have 2 videos that I'm planning right now after the Mr. Robot one. I'm gonna do how to establish a Star Trek series in a pilot, and that's comparing all of the different Star Trek things. And then I'm gonna do Blade Runner versus Blade Runner 2049 and why 2049 is a bad sequel to Blade Runner. And that'll go into how Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep got translated into Blade Runner, what elements were taken out, what elements stayed in, and then why Blade Runner 2049. Again, 30 years later, we have this. The son, the daughter, is going after the old man. I have to save the main character. He's my daddy. Oh wait, turns out he's not my daddy. I guess dying for the right cause is the only reason why I have to exist, and then I die. That's what's human. But 2049 to me, it breaks all of the rules of the original movie. All of the rules that exist for the plot to happen have to change for 2049 without an explanation. There has to be a bunch of slate wipes. So there has to be a blackout where all the paper records are all that you have, but all the digital records go out. There has to be open-ended lifespan replicants, which goes against the original concept of what Blade Runner is about. There has to be a new bad guy named Wallace that comes in, and his only objective has to be replicants that can give birth to other replicants. The reason why he wants to do this is because he can't make enough replicants. Somehow the gestation cycle and the raising of a real being, like a replicant, would be more preferable than just making them en masse. When Wallace's entire business is making slaves, he wants them to be independent beings that have children. Why would that be the case? And then on top of that, you have to change the original story to say, okay, Rachel from the original series, from the original story, Rachel is a replicant that does not know she's a replicant. That is what is special about her. She thought she was real because she was imprinted with real memories, the memories of the niece of Tyrell. So what that means is Deckard convinces her that she's a replicant. She has a breakdown. Deckard falls in love with her. The solution to this terrible situation is that they are going to go and leave the city and live lives together. Gaff basically allows him to go, and they're going to go leave. They're going to go live somewhere else for the short amount of time that they have to enjoy with each other, which is the point of Blade Runner. That's I've seen things people wouldn't believe, and all of those things are going to be lost like tears in the rain. It's too bad she won't live, but then again, who does? The point is that your memories, like we said earlier, everything is fleeting. So you better live for now. Deckard finding his humanity from being an android robot was the point of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. It was supposed to be a man who is totally debased and has become a corporate tool. He then finds his humanity again with this replicant. Now, in 2049, they literally retcon that story to assume that the reason why Rachel is special is she was designed for Deckard to fall in love with her so that they could have the first hybrid human and replicant baby. That baby is so important that they have to scramble the records of its existence and keep it on Earth so that Wallace can't find her and take her apart so that he can build replicants. His motivation is he wants to storm Eden. He makes a biblical reference about how he makes angels. But since there's no real there's no real translation of that except for I took humanity to 9 worlds. Okay, he takes humanity to 9 worlds, so he wants to make angels that allow that to happen. But he wants these angels to be able to reproduce and be their own beings, which is a contradiction. He runs a business based on the idea that these things are slaves, yet he wants to give them all the tools to destroy him. What is the point of that?
I think in the original story with Rachel, she was trying to sleep with Deckard just to dissuade him from what he was trying to do, and Deckard tries to kill her. It's like, oh, this is not at the great foundation for a relationship, let alone having children, if that was even a possible thing in the universe, which it isn't. And yeah, no.
Main problem, what you're saying is basically like if he wants replicants that can reproduce, that have unlimited lifespans, basically what we're working with is a Planet of the Apes scenario where they will replace humanity because they're more efficient. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know, because I have no idea what Wallace's motivations are, other than he wants to make replicants have babies. Because the motivation of his business, the thing that gives him power, is that he makes these replicants that are they're pleasure models, or they're hazard models, or they're war models, whatever it is. They're programmed to be slaves. That is a constant thing in all of the iterations of Blade Runner. In Durandroid's Dream of Electric Sheep, every human being that goes off-world, so basically, Durandroid's Dream of Electric Sheep, there's something called World War Terminus. The entire world is essentially irradiated, and a lot of people are getting mutations. Those people get classified as specials, and they can't leave the planet to go to the off-world colonies where people are running away to get a new life. When you get a new life on the off-world colonies, you get assigned the android replicant helper of your choice. They're biological, and they're there to serve you. Makes sense. It makes sense that then Deckard is a guy that goes and hunts down and kills runaway replicants. That's common in Blade Runner, because replicants are not allowed on the planet Earth. That's one of the main points. Yet in Blade Runner 2049, replicants are all over Earth, to the point that they're even police officers. The police officer then, that is a replicant, says his Nexus 8 model does not run. They don't run like the older models that, like Batista in the beginning of the movie, that he takes out. The only problem is that he clearly goes against that notion. He's given this free will, and there's no explanation for why he does that, unless that's a lie that they tell him, and he still has to do the same Voight Kampf, cells interlinked, which is basically he still has to stay within the realm of his programming. So this idea that the guy that has taken over Tyrell's business, he creates replicants that don't die based on aging, right? Which to me goes against the point of these things. They're a disposable workforce, as Wallace says. But if they live longer than humans, then they're not really disposable. They're superior to humans, which is the point of the more human than human thing. So basically what I think Wallace wants to do is he wants to, like you're saying, he wants to replace human beings, but that goes against everything that he's designed to do. Everything that his character is supposed to be. If he's supposed to have a god complex, why would he make beings that are better than him? If he's got a satanic complex and he wants to kill God, where is that God? Is that the dead God that Tyrell represents to him? Is he just jealous that Tyrell can do something that he couldn't do? But again, from the perspective of somebody analyzing the movie, this idea that replicants have open-ended lifespans, this idea that they can give birth, this idea that Wallace can't do that, those are all retcons. Those were not part of the original Blade Runner story. But Hampton Fancher, the writer, thought, I'm going to change that. And not only am I going to change that, I'm going to change the final cut version of us not knowing if Deckard himself is a replicant. Maybe he had Gaff's memories. We don't know that. We don't exactly get the whole story there. He's going to go, no, he actually is a human, and then Rachel died, and she died in childbirth, and it was all this stuff. And like, why is that the case? Because these motivations for the characters are not adding up. The only thread that keeps this story going is the idea that there is a baby that was born from a replicant and a human. The main character, Kay, thinks that it's him, but it actually turns out that the records were fudged and it's this other person. So he feels like he has to get himself killed to help protect this child who will then lead the revolution, like Children of Men style or something like that. And I don't understand how you do that. What is the motivation of these characters in this universe as it was already presented? You have to completely change what Blade Runner is, what the story was about in the first one, to have that setup. And that to me is why it's bad writing. It exists on the foundation of a retcon with characters that have antithetical motivations to what their characters are supposedly presented as.
It's actually a really good book. So if anyone wants to read up PKD or Philip K. Dick, he is one of the big greats of the lighter novella, or the novella of science fiction. So
and just as like my final thing, the idea that he thinks that natural born birth replicant human whatevers would be better. Like, I understand if there's an idea, if the movie was about how humans were trying to be more like the replicants now, and that was what was being requested, I would get it. That his like business model is then, okay, turning human beings now and giving them the same thing that the replicants have, or that your children will then have the benefit of the replicants. So here's the best wife you could possibly have. That would be in line with what he's saying. But it just, I don't get that sensation at all. I get this sort of I want to have a theme and I want to have a story about this over the world building that already exists. So I'm just going to do it.
More interesting conversation than the actual video. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Indeed.
All right, we can finish it off. That's fine.
Yeah. Tonal.
If she used as a name for the new type of Jedi, one not held back by data, tradition, and rules, but a proper peacekeeper, a guardian of the Force that uses the dark and the light side of the Force, a true ending to the
traditions
Jedi
and rules.
Because what happens in The Rise of Skywalker is no different from the ending in Return of the Jedi. Stopping the dark side of the Force by taking out the big honcho didn't work then. Why does Rey or Luke or anyone think it will work now? People will be strong in the Force.
But it did work then. They just retconned it.
From being more than what she is.
Yeah.
The unclear nature of this arc muddles any great work set up by JJ or Ryan previously. That's what George Lucas had. Commitment to stick to an idea or a thread. Adjusting it from fan feedback, but the initial core idea was always the same. Anakin was always going to turn to the dark side. Luke's arc stayed true to who he was.
Well, because he
Rey
had
doesn't
to.
commit to any deeper meanings in The Rise of Skywalker, and it is really the only thing holding her back from being the best.
Rey never has any deeper
in the
meanings.
entire franchise. And that is where I'm going to end today's video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my handle is just here. And if you want to subscribe for more content like this, there's just like a button somewhere around here that's also going to be for that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comments down below what you thought of the skits. It's a new thing that we're trying to do to try and make it more entertaining. You know, it's a big
Don't do it.
video with but some stuff that
Look, if you're going to have skits, here's my advice. If you're going to do skits, make them funny. Don't make them cringe. Cringe humor is always terrible. Don't do it.
All right, I think we're done, gentlemen. Now, I wanted to cover another video for fun. I don't know if you guys want to do that. We can do that on another stream, or we can stop this stream and start another one.
I'm good for now, yeah, if you want to do it.
All right. I don't know if you guys have been watching any of Downward Thrust. I know I don't. But
no, I don't. I very rarely watch him.
Yeah, no, he does a lot of weird content the past few months. Apparently, he's trying to do cooking, and he's trying to do exercise. I'm like just going through his channel, like, what the hell is he doing? And they're all horribly, like, I don't know, 10K views, which is not much for a channel of his size. So I don't know what's going on. But because I know food, and I watched this one. I was like, okay, he's doing some interesting techniques, but a lot of it's a little weird. I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you do this and cook it and waste all your time? Like, very strange techniques. If you guys care about cooking, or have ever made a sandwich, I think we've all made a sandwich. This is probably not the best way to make a sandwich, but I just want you to understand the perspective of Mr. Downward Thrust and where he's coming from. It's very interesting to me as a person who knows cooking or knows food and has made sandwiches. Everyone's made a sandwich. You know what the hell we're doing, right? You take some bread, you take some contents, and you put them together. That's a sandwich, right?
Message coming in.
This is strange.
Yeah. Patching it through.
And he's basing
the theme.
Yeah, he's basing it off The Last of Us 2, if that means anything to you. I don't think it means a damn thing. I think he just made shit up just to make a video. I think that's what happened. He has to promote some content.
Can we make the theme of Smudcast educating and improving our writing?
Well, yeah, I know. That's why I wanted to stop this and just do another stream, because this is like, what the hell are we doing? We're just talking about videos now. So We could. I could stop it right now. We'll just start right back up, guys. We could do that. We'll call it like Smud Talk or whatever. How's that?
I have to go around 6 o'clock because I have my little birthday dinner thing. You know, I'm gonna meet up with my parents, so that's gonna be nice. But I'm down to talk anytime about this stuff. I love that. I like impromptu chat talks.
All right, so I'm gonna stop the stream. I'm gonna start up again. It'll take maybe 30 minutes. I won't ramble too much about cooking. It's not a big deal. Cooking is very straightforward. So, all right, guys, we'll see you real soon if you're still here. Okay.